Councilors Kadim,
Here.
Dion,
Here.
Hart,
Here.
Kilby,
Here.
Ferrera,
Here.
Ponte,
Here.
Reposo.
Here.
Sampson. Here. President Kamara.
Here. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit this meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. We have one individual that signed up before us today, Richard Barlow, subject matter, flooding.
What is the subject matter?
I
What
couldn't
did
it
you
from-
say the subject matter was?
Flooding,
Flooding.
flooding.
Good afternoon, Council President. I don't know if any of you remember, but I've been down here plenty of times complaining about the flooding issues. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. Ever since the electric company went back there and did some work back there along that roadway, there used to be a berm that ran along the stream area, it's gone. So now that water is overflowing more and flooding my property even more. I shouldn't have to live in fear of my house flooding every single time that it rains out like this. I know they're gonna say, well, you know, it was 3 inches of rain. It was 3 inches of rain over hours of time, not over, you know, a 2-hour period, 3-hour period. It was an entire night of rain. So now that's where I'm getting more concerned with this. It's getting worse, and the hole that's up the road, up the stream more, because nobody really wants to listen to me. I know somebody said that they walked the entire stream,
I'm sorry to interrupt, where is your house?
Anderson Street.
Okay.
Now, I know somebody said they walked the entire stream. It's totally impossible to walk it. You can't. There's too much briars and brush that you can't walk it. It's impossible. All you have to do is go down Lock Street. And when that stream, or Sucker Brook, what it's really called, once it crosses Lock Street, on the other side of Lock Street, it just opens up. There's no real channel for that to stay in. So if it was channeled right to go completely to Bleachery Pond like it's supposed to, I doubt very much I'll have a lot of problems with the flooding issue. It needs to be channeled like they did with Hyacinth Street. They spent millions of dollars on Hyacinth Street to fix the flooding issues over there. They went right across 24, channeled that all the way out, all the way to the pond. There's no reason why they can't go back there and dig some of that out for that water to go someplace instead of flooding my property every time and me and my family in fear that we're gonna lose so much because of the house flooding. I spent $8,000 to raise the driveway to try to push it out because when they did the street, they pitched it and it was all going into my street, making a mess, into my driveway, making a mess all the time. I closed off my garage area so less water can get in. There was another $4,000. Let's see, when I built my garage, I raised it up an extra 2 feet to try to prevent any damage from there. Now, was it 2 years ago, I believe it was, it flooded. I had, you know, some damage in the house. I have flood insurance, but as anyone knows anything about flood insurance, it covers absolutely nothing. Pretty much nothing. So I'm spending all this money for flood insurance. I don't need flood insurance because it's not in a flood zone. I know they say, oh, it's in a flood zone. It's not in a flood zone. The problem isn't the the pond overflowing, it's the drainage system. Now, I know that, you know, when I ask, well, why am I paying a water runoff fee? They say, oh, it's to maintain the culverts and swales. That thing hasn't been touched in 14 years. 14 years, nobody's touched that thing. Like, you know, I know they did studies on it, but then after a while, it just seems like it gets pushed to the side. It's just ridiculous. The money, that I pay in taxes, I pay the water runoff fees, I pay my water bill, my sewer bill, everything is paid on time. You know, only thing I'm asking for is for them to fix the problem or to alleviate the problem. I suggested, buy the property across the street. I know it's been on the market for, he offered it to me for like $30,000. I mean, I'd pay the $30,000 if the city wants to dig the whole thing out and all the water can go in there as a big retainer pond. I have no problem with that, if that's gonna help, alleviate the problem of my house flooding. I'd rather spend $30,000 than have to spend $40,000 redoing the entire downstairs again. What we had to do last time we bought the house, because we bought it right at the end of the flooding, FEMA rejected us. They says, oh, no, because you didn't live in the house. I'm like, how did I move in the house? I just bought the house, and then we closed on it, and the next day it was flooded. How am I supposed to move into it overnight? After a long battle with that, we won. And if I have to come down to every other meeting, every single meeting, then I'll do it to keep raising my point till something gets done about this. I shouldn't have to live like this.
Thank you. Counsel C4, Counsel Kilby, I know you had your hand up.
Just a couple of questions, sir. So are you the only home that's affected down there?
I'm the only home that gets affected with it, yep.
You're the only one? Okay.
Yep.
And I know you've been here many, many, many times.
Right.
So,
But like I said, in 2010, I don't know if anybody remembers them big storms. That house didn't get flooded until the end of all them storms. If, nobody really wants to listen to me, nobody really wants to go with me to
Well,
see
we-
where the
we-
problem was.
We listen. I've seen the pictures.
No, I
that you
know, I'm
post
I'm
and-
saying the people that can really, actually really do something about it. It broke through, so it doesn't stay inside the channel like it should. And what's happening now, that hole's getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
And how long you in home?
It'd be 14
I'm asking the same
it'd be
questions
14
maybe
years.
I asked last time you were here, but go
It'd
ahead.
be going on 14 years now.
Okay. So it's,
And
statute of limitations are probably over with regard to going after the person who built it for remediation, so, okay.
well, yeah, I'd imagine so.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want a lawsuit against anybody, I just want the problem fixed. I mean, if it keeps flooding, who am I gonna go, sue the city for negligence of not fixing the problem that they know is a problem?
What departments have you spoken to outside the council? Have any?
Well, we had
Any
meetings,
individuals gone down to visit you?
no, we had meetings with, the water department and stuff like that, you know.
Personally, they went to your home?
Well, that was, it was a couple of, no, not, a few years ago, they came to the house
Okay.
after it flooded. You know, he came down to see what was going on, and he could see, he says, oh, yeah, you know, but there's nothing that he could do at that point. It's flooded. I got no place to put the water.
Well,
I
like
got-
I said, I know you've been, I won't belabor this, I know you've been there many, many times. I've seen the pictures that you post and stuff like that. It's, I guess
said, if they-
one more attempt for me is.
If they channeled that water,
I'm sorry, just please leave your number once again with the city clerk.
Yep.
And I'll try to follow up, as other council will try to follow up with department heads. That's really all we can do, is
No, I know. I mean-
insist as a council that something be done for you. We don't have the purse strings, you know, so, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Counsel. Mr. Barlow, I have a question. I heard you say that it's not in a flood zone, but they say it is in a flood zone. Who is they that is saying it's in a flood zone? Is it the city engineer? Who's telling you? Not the insurance company?
No. I
Okay.
got
So,
documents
so the city
I got
differs,
documents from FEMA, everything saying that it's just out of the flood zone. I bought flood insurance
Okay.
only because they paid for damages to the house the first time it got flooded.
so if they're telling you it's in a flood zone, maybe we can have a conversation and figure out exactly whether it is or it isn't and find out why they think it is and why you chose your documentation that would state why it's not. So that's just curious. I'm just wondering who.
Yeah, I
really
got the
wanted to say it here.
documentation showing
Okay.
it's not, the insurance company, the mortgage company says the same thing.
All right, appreciate that. Counsel C2, you have a question?
Yeah, Mr. Barlow's been at my committee more than once. We've had the discussions on his property. So, in light of the new information, the fact that they removed the berm, et cetera, I believe it's tabled in the committee at this time, that we can schedule another meeting, get everybody back at the table again, and see what we can do for you.
I know the 9 of you, there's only so much you can do. I mean, you know, but.
But,
I
you
mean,
know, maybe the berm needs to be replaced, maybe it needs to be bigger than it was. I mean, like, I agree with you, there has to be some remedy somewhere, somehow, because you're right, what you've lived is horrific. With that, I yield.
Thank you very much. Counsel C3, Counsel
Just
Hart?
one real quick point. I just got back on the council,
Yes,
so
sir,
I'm
I
not
know.
familiar with it, but if you could you send me some of those pictures of the flood at
Absolutely.
your house? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, I yield.
Thank you.
Counsel. Thank you very much, Mr. Barlow.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. There being no further business before finance, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to
Second.
Motion to adjourn is made second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? City Council Committee on Finance is now adjourned. The regular City Council meeting will begin at 7 o'clock. City Council come to order. Clerk will call the roll.
I like where I am.
Councilors Kadim?
Here.
Dion?
Here.
Hart?
Here.
Kilby?
Here.
Pereira?
Here.
Conti?
Here.
Reposo?
Here.
Sampson?
Here.
And President Kamara.
Here. Will everyone in the council chamber please rise for a moment of silent prayer? Please remain standing for salute to the flag. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit this meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Madam Clerk?
Mr. President, excuse me, before we start any new business, I'd like to make a motion to lift the Bank Street Armory from the table.
Second.
Motion to lift the Bank Street Armory from the table has been made and seconded. Roll call.
On lifting the matter from the table, Councilors Kadim?
Yes.
Dion?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
Kilby?
Yes.
Pereira?
Yes.
Conti?
Yes.
Reposo?
Yes.
Sampson?
Yes.
And President Kamara.
Yes. The item is now lifted from the table. Is there a motion?
I'd make a motion to move forward with the question
What's the question?
on the sale of
Clerk-
the armory.
Clerk
Proposal
will
for
read
the
the question.
sale of the Bank Street Armory that has been presented to the council, which was tabled back in November.
Motion to authorize sale.
Seconded.
Motion to authorize sale has been made and seconded.
Mr. President.
On the motion, Council seat 6, Council Ponte.
Yeah, so I appreciate this, but I don't have anything as a new counselor about this. Is this in our packets tonight, is it? It's being lifted from the table. I know, I've watched the meetings, there's been extensive debate regarding this. I know the council should probably take some action on this, but I don't even know what we're voting on. We're voting on to do what?
Sell it.
We're gonna vote to sell it to who? Like, I have nothing here.
Yeah, Council, I understand, and I didn't put it on the agenda
I
because
know
I
you
didn't
didn't.
think some new councils weren't ready for this and had to do some, maybe visit of the Bank Street Armory or have to do some research. So I didn't want to put you in that situation or anyone else. For those of us that were here that dealt with it last year, we probably are prepared to vote on this. But you and Councilor Hart, who were newly elected, I didn't think it was fair to put it on the agenda. But everyone has a right and a vote
Sure.
to lift it from the table.
Mr. President, I'm fine with that. I just would like to take this up a little later on in the evening so that I could maybe have one of the clerks go get a copy of it and so I can see it and read it and feel a little bit more comfortable than doing this at this very second. I respect my colleague in seat two's position on this and getting it through so we don't have to wait any longer on it, but I'd like to see maybe like the packet that these councilors have been talking about for 6 months.
So the best way to do that, Council, would be to make a motion to table it.
No, I don't want to
As
table
colleagues
it. I just
agrees,
want
I
to
mean,
see it.
it's-
I want to see it. I want to see what I'm voting on. That's all I'm asking for. So if we can make a quick copy, or unless a colleague of mine has a copy that they can give me, so I can read what we're voting on, that's all I'm asking for. I'm not trying to make it any more complicated.
No, I'm just trying to make it easy. If we table it, then you can see what you vote on. We can bring it back later up in the meeting. It's up to you, but, I mean, right now, with the motion before us, is to lift it from the table and to sell it as it is before us, and the clerk read it. Do you yield, Counselor?
Yes, I do.
Counselor seat 4, Counselor Kilby.
Yes. It was actually my intention to make that motion. And now that Council Dion has made it, you know, obviously I'm going to support it because, full disclosure, I think we all know, I'm in favor of the sale. And I could go over my points now, but I don't want to belabor everything. Council Pereira and myself debated this issue for
I'm
2
against.
hours on WSAR. She has a differing opinion in me. So I didn't have any conversation with Councilor Dion. I did have a conversation with the Council President today, and I did have a conversation with the mayor today, and he requested 2 more weeks. So, of course, I seconded the motion, because I was of the opinion in the past, with the last council, with some health issues that were going on in the council, with 2 new members who who were coming on. And Councilor Pereira, was very, very adamant about her position, which I respect a great deal. Made an objection once, then it was tabled. I asked for a roll call, it wasn't tabled. So I have absolutely no problem if we want to wait 2 weeks on this, so Councilor Pond can get more information. But this has been debated a quite deal, you know, and in my opinion, just to reiterate my opinion, it's clear to me. I mean, I would love, if I had a magic wand, to see the Bank Street Armory, what it was in the turn of the century, where it was through the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and 70s, and the 80s. We have a lot of fond memories there, but the reality is, in my opinion, that it's totally proper to sell the building to a reputable developer who has a building right next door. He has such a stake in seeing this building for his own portfolio, to see the building renovated. And there's historic covenants on the building that are gonna ensure that the facade is gonna stay the same. It's just a different use. And in my opinion, it's called changing with the times. It's called progress. Look what everything that's going on in this city. The governor is in favor of this project. I know for a fact that she's stated that publicly. So that's my piece, but I have actually no problem, Council Pond, if you need more time to study this issue. But my opinion, it's a no-brainer. It really, really is, because winter's here. It's gonna continue to sit there. It's gonna continue to deteriorate. And I would guarantee you, if a decision was made on the Armory to sell it months ago, you would see already progress in that building to remediate the issues that are going on. There's no commitment on the part of the administration to take it over. The ARPA money's encumbered. So, and do we want to trade a new DPW building, $15 million, for restoration of the Bank Street Armory for a use that is just so outdated? I'm not willing to make that vote. I want to see the DPW, we've been talking about the Department of Public Works building for a long, long time. A long time. That's where the money's earmarked. Does the city council want to change that? And I totally understand pulling at the heartstrings. I really, really do. And again, I'm just thinking practically here, and I think that's the right vote to make, and that's why I'm gonna vote along with lifting it from the table to finally make a decision on this tonight. I was gonna wait 2 weeks, but if Council Pont wants to wait, then we'll wait. I yield. I said
Thank
my
you,
piece
Council-
enough.
Motion-
I
motion
said
to
my
move-
piece enough on this, Council
Motion to
Pont.
move this item to, after item number 18 on the agenda.
Second.
Motion to move item to item number 8 on the agenda has been made and seconded. On the motion, Council seat 5, Council Vice President Pereira.
Yeah, I don't have a problem if we're gonna move it further down on the agenda, that's fine. And perhaps one of the clerks can get a copy of the paperwork that we have available to give to Council Ponce, because he's only asking to review it. He certainly knows some of the issue on that, because he is astute and has been watching council meetings and talking to people. I don't think he doesn't know anything about it. I mean, business he's in, he knows about it. So he wants to see what he's voting on, and I think he should see it.
I agree.
So if somebody could get him that and move it on the
We can take a
agenda,
recess and do that, not a problem.
would be fine.
Great.
I'll agree with that
Okay.
motion filed by Counselor Kadim.
You yield, Councilor?
Kamara, what was I thinking?
Close. 20 years apart.
No.
Do you yield, Councilor?
I do.
Motion on the table is to revisit the item after item number 18.
Number 18.
We made
Has
a
it made-
motion to lift already?
Yep,
Okay.
And seconded.
it was seconded
All
by
in
Counselor.
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Go.
Madam Clerk?
Item number 1 is the mayor's request for the confirmation of Jeffrey Bacon as fire chief.
Motion to
Motion to
confirm.
adopt.
Second.
Motion to confirm has been made and seconded.
Second.
On the motion, Counsel Counsel Kilby.
Yes, just really briefly, I want to congratulate. We're on the chief issue, right?
Chief Bacon, yes.
Because I already spoke enough with regard to the Armory. So, congratulations. I really, really like seeing so many of your now subordinates who are here to support you. And I think I did my due diligence. We don't really know each other that well. I think we met once or twice. I said that to Council Kadim. But I made calls to a lot of your members, and they just think that you're going to do a terrific job. And especially, you're going to be around for a while. That is very, very important, because of the days of John Carrero and, in my opinion, the fire chief, police chief, the mayor, and the superintendent of the schools are the most important jobs in this city. And I'm very happy that hopefully you're going to be confirmed and that you're going to be around for a long time. So congratulations to you and your family.
Motion has been made and seconded. Roll call.
On confirmation, Councilors Kadim,
Yes.
Dion,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Kilby,
Yes.
Pereira,
Yes.
Ponte,
Yes.
Reposo,
Yes.
Sampson,
Yes.
President Kamara.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Chief. Very happy to see you on stuff with me for a long time, John. Yeah, you're very good. Very good. I'm done.
Nice guy.
Give him much more.
Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mr. President, could I just, quickly,
Counsel
two
Seawood,
things.
Counsel
So
Kadim?
I do want to recognize and congratulate Chief Bacon. I know at some point he'll be sworn in and it'll be official, but I know Jeff for a while, so I think he's going to do a phenomenal job, and I told him when he was walking by, I'm super proud of him. It's a guy that just kind of rose through the ranks, so congratulations, he deserves that. Just on a separate note, just in terms of the appointment letter that came down, there was a annual salary that was associated with his appointment. Can we just, because I know there was some concerns back and forth with some collective bargaining agreements between police and fire, and just the equity pays across the board, can we just request from the administration that they give us a list of all the supervisory ranks in the fire department and the police department, just so that we can see what that looks like, to make sure that they're all on par in terms of,
Their ranks with their salaries?
yep,
Yes, we can do that.
thank you.
Not a problem. We'll make sure we put that request in. Good point, Counselor. Madam Clerk?
Item 2 is the mayor's request to appear before the council on March 12th to deliver the State of the City address.
Motion to accept.
Motion to adopt has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Have the fiscal year 24 Quarter 2 budget report.
Motion to refer to finance.
Second.
Motion for the Committee on Finance has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
We have the mayor presenting the 5-year financial forecast.
Motion to refer to finance.
Second.
Motion for the Committee on Finance has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 5 is the Chair of the Board of Election Commissioners. These are resubmitted orders which would authorize the presidential primary election on March 5th, 2024, the state primary election on September 3rd, 2024, and the biennial state election on November 5th, 2024, and will also designate polling places and changes to those polling places for all elections.
Motion
Second.
to adopt has
Second.
been made. Is there a second? Second. On the
Second.
motion, Counsel seat 8, Counsel Reposo.
Yeah, I just have a few questions in follow-up to this order, if we could have
Motion to waive the rules?
Second.
Motion to waive the rules so that they can come down?
Yes, please.
Made and
Has
there's
been
a
made and
second.
seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Would you come down, please?
He's trying.
Come on, chief. Council Reposo?
Hi, Ryan, how are you?
I'm well, Counselor. How are you?
Nice to see you. Very well, thank you.
Always good to see you.
Two questions. So, following up to our last conversation, and the concern I brought to you was in regards to transportation. And I know you had some preliminary discussions about how we're gonna handle that. Do you have any update for us as far as what your general plan is with the change of polling places and how to get some individuals to the polls?
Yes, so the good news on that, I'm going to be hijacking the bus, so to speak, from the VSO. I had a conversation with Director Hamilton, so I'll be having the bus for all 3 of the state elections this year. I already have one of the drivers from DPW working for me on Election Day, so I just have to pay the overtime out of my budget, which is all set for FY '24. So if anyone needs transportation to and from the polling precincts on Election Day, they just have to contact my office. I'm also going to be having signs posted at the high rises that will be affected by the changes that I am recommending to the city council. So just in case if anyone still insists on voting at the new precincts, they can contact my office and we will arrange transportation.
Okay. The second question I had is in reference to a call I received regarding the Candace Fire Station and the ADA accessibility to the building. And I guess it's been something that's been brought up before.
Yes.
And I figured I'd bring it to your attention. Obviously, in our discussion that we had, Candace is still on the list.
It is,
So-
unfortunately.
Okay, so can you elaborate on that a
If
little
there
bit?
is one other location besides Methodist Church that I would love to be able to relocate, it's the Candace Fire Station. Just because, for 2 reasons. It's just not a comfortable location for 2 reasons. For my polling workers to work on Election Day, as well as for voters to be able to feel comfortable voting in. There was a site study done by Secretary Galvin, I believe in 2013, if I'm not mistaken. There was a complaint raised by a concerned citizen, and it was determined by the secretary to be an acceptable location as a polling precinct. I did have a conversation with Director MacArthur about relocating the polling precinct, if I decided to relocate the polling precincts, because it's a double location. It's precincts 2C and 5A. If I was to relocate to the Green Elementary School, what would that look like in terms of traffic congestion and other problems? And she kind of raised a lot of red flags. She told me incidences of her parking control officers running into problems with being assaulted verbally and physically by residents who live there, by parents coming to pick up their children. And it just seemed very concerning, the idea of moving the precincts to the Green School, if my main concern is trying to alleviate the traffic problem as well as the parking accessibility for voters on Election Day. I just don't think the Green School is an ideal location if it's in terms of trying to make it more accessible for the general public in terms of being able to park their cars.
Yeah, which makes sense, because especially in an election like this, we're not
Yes,
expecting
especially
the-
heading into 2024, Councilor.
Yeah, we're not expecting public schools to not have school or PD days on those multiple
Right.
days. I mean, to have one makes sense, but to have 3 wouldn't obviously make any sense, and it's just not a perfect world. So I guess my follow-up question is, internally, has there been any research to see, could there be an alternative place other than a school building that it could be a
It's-
possibility?
In that section of the city, it's very hard because I can't find anything that would really be able to accommodate, I think, a double precinct. I mean, there used to be, I used to be at, I think it was actually once at St. Anne's Elementary School was where the precinct was once located. If only Blessed Trinity Church was a tad bit larger because it's already serving as a double precinct, for the Plymouth Avenue Globe Street section of Fall River, that would possibly work, but it could not accommodate 4 polling precincts in that section. It seems unfortunately like Methodist Church and Highland Avenue, we're kind of boxed in to some locations. And I've also received questions about possibly moving out of Laterno Elementary School because it's not as accessible as it used to be when we used to use St. William's Church, the Monsignor Considine Center. But there are some locations where it's a little more complicated because of there not being a physical location to accommodate polling precincts on Election Day. I do scour the city. I'm always willing or to have the conversation with anyone if they have a suggestion in mind, but it's a little bit more tougher as we're in certain sections of the city.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I guess my only request is as you continue to work through this, if that could be something that you continue to see if there is an
Certainly.
alternative. And like we've talked about, the church particularly as well, that, you know, like you said, you're kind of boxed into it.
Right.
But if anything does come up, you know, do your due diligence best you can.
I was planning on, I know we talked about this back in December. I did originally want to relocate Precinct 7A, which is the Methodist Church in Highland Avenue, down to the Morton Middle School. But that is making a bad situation even worse because the school is located at the intersection of President Avenue and North Main Street. And that is just very inaccessible in terms of public parking. So unfortunately, it just didn't seem like a very feasible idea to present
Fair
to you.
enough. I appreciate the update.
Of course.
Thank you so much. I yield, Mr.
There
President.
you go, Council seat 6, Council Vice President Pereira.
One of the, well, two of the polling places that I think were very good to move was St. Anthony of the Deserts Church, because they have great parking, great facility, easy for people
I'm
to go in
amazed
to
by that
vote.
location, Counselor.
Pardon?
I'm amazed by that location.
That
I'd
is-
never seen the size of their parking lot until I did a site survey there back at the end of November's election. And I'm just amazed by the sheer number of parking spaces available. I'd never seen behind the church hall before, but
Yeah.
I'm just amazed at the opportunity.
That's because you haven't
open
gone to a
to-
feast there, because that's the only place you can park is back there.
I'm too busy at my own at Good Shepherd, but yeah, I was just amazed when Monsignor Root had walked me through the parish hall. and
Monsignor
just-
Root does a great job.
He's a wonderful man, and he had walked me through the parish hall, and it's just going to make a great location for a double precinct, in addition to the sheer size of the parking lot. It's like Gillette Stadium for that section of the city.
And it's
in terms
handicap
of-
accessible. and
Yes, very much so.
Council
And
Camara cooks a mean church.
so I've heard.
Shish kebab during the feast. The other one was at Bristol Community College, where the
Yes.
parking lot is and where you're gonna go to vote. You and I talked about that, and I just wanna say this so that the public is aware. But Bristol Community College will be providing shuttle from
Yes,
the
they will.
parking lot.
Where the parking lot is located, well, the location is Building G. It's the Commonwealth Student Center that we're going to be
Correct.
utilizing on Election Day. And then there's campus security is offering, I want to call them the golf carts,
Right.
to and from the handicap parking spaces to the student center, just in case if someone requires additional assistance getting to and from their car on Election Day. It's not that much of a walk in comparison from people who have to walk from Stanley Street or Chestnut Street into Spencer Borden or Gardner
Right.
Medeiros. I think it's very easily accessible for the public, but just in case, it's something that they've offered. I had a great conversation with their event director, and they have rolled out the red carpet to my office, just in case if there's anything else that we need. And they will be putting up signage right from the entrance of Ellsbury Street all the way back to the parking lot. They're reserving an entire parking lot for voters on Election Day.
Now, I know that more people tend to be voting by mail than they have in the past.
Yes.
But the van that you're getting from the VSO for the, for the days of these elections, is that a handicap accessible van as well?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I just wanted
I
to,
think it's actually the mini bus
Mini
that she
bus.
has that we're going to be utilizing on Election
just so
Day.
that people know it is handicap accessible, so that we can make sure that we can get people to the polls. And your number from the office here will be posted throughout all of the older precincts?
Yes, it will be.
Okay. But, well, I think you've made some good changes, and I think change for people sometimes is hard. But I think some of the new places, the new polling places are good, and I know that schools, they're a little concerned with having people in and out of school buildings, which I agree, probably better off if we could have them somewhere else, so. But good job, Mr. Lyons, thank you so much.
Thank you, Counselor.
You, Councilor?
I yield.
Council seat 6, Council Ponte.
Thank you, Mr. President. You may have answered this, but what is the educational component to those who are used to going to other precincts? What does it look like briefly? Like what? And by
Well-
the way, I want to commend you for this because this has been long needed for a long time. And, I know you're relatively new for the last year or two to the role, and I commend you for making this a priority of you and your team to do this because I think it's necessary. I think it needs to be reduced a little bit more, if I'm being honest with you. If you go to some cities and towns, you go to a school and everybody's there all day. I'm not saying
Right.
that we do that, but you go to Somerset, they sit in front of one building all day long, and it makes it easier for staffing and everything. So putting that aside, just if you can highlight to me, because I don't know if I've heard you say this, the educational component to the switching.
Well, if approved by the city council, I am required by law to notify, it's going to be about 18,000 registered voters in total in writing, to let them know that their polling location has been changed effective for the March 5th presidential primary. In addition to that, I was actually doing my first radio interview today in regards to the potential changes that are forthcoming. And as I just mentioned to the Council Vice President Pereira, I will be posting the changes in the locations that will be affected going forward. So in addition to that, I will keep the ongoing conversation, but I think the direct notices to the general public at least 30 days before the election is of great benefit. We're required to do that, but I think as long as the voters have that in hand heading into the election, that is a great guide.
All right, so I guess there's no larger campaign attached at all that would allow you to position you and your team to make sure that there's proper education? Because I'll be honest with you, people get their mail and they throw it out. I mean, I look for checks and bills and sometimes I throw it out, unless it's city council business now, of course. But all kidding aside, you know, people don't really read their mail. So is there a larger component to this? Have we been able to partner with maybe Fred TV? Are we able to partner with the Herald News? Like, is there something that we can do
Yes.
that we can make sure that this is being done? And is this something that's going to be consistent going forward with these locations?
Oh, absolutely, all throughout at least 2024 and if need be into next year. And then I can always have the conversations with FRG TV and their media consultants to at least help with the free advertising to let the general public know that these changes have been made permanent by the city council and my department heading into 2024 and beyond. Because you're right about the direct notices. We're required by law to do that, but it's just like the municipal census that is now hitting voters' mailboxes. Too many voters just discard their mail.
Right.
That is a concern, but I do find that sometimes, even with the interviews that I do, that sometimes voters are just still not paying attention. But I'm just hoping that it's not going to be to the point where they're arriving at the polls on election day to see the sign, which I think will help, because luckily, at least like for the South End, for example, I mean, it's going to be precincts 3A and 3B, which is Carlton Viveris Elementary and Mitchell Apartments, which I'm consolidating into Good Shepherd Parish. Luckily, it's only down the street, so to speak, so it's not, and thankfully, there's a parking lot there, so it's much easier for the voters to get to. So if they see the sign and that's their only notification, at least it's much more easy for them to be able to park their car and get in and out.
Yeah, I mean,
Because sometimes it's harder with communication for them to either say, well, I didn't get a notification, I discarded it, they didn't hear my interview about it, or sometimes they weren't paying attention to a press release. So I try to cover all my bases, but sometimes it's still hard to make sure that, especially with this volume of 18,000 registered voters, it can be a little bit difficult to make sure.
Yeah, and I don't know
they
what kind of
notify.
campaign anybody would do. I don't know what other election chair commissions done in other communities where they've condensed their polling locations to make sure people are aware. I'm just worried about people being aware of this or people getting frustrated. The apathy already is clear, as you know, in the most recent
Unfortunately.
elections. And I don't think we want to be in a position where we're not encouraging people to vote and them being confused. So I would urge you perhaps, and if you need some support from at least me as one counselor, to urge the mayor to see if they can get you some kind of a campaign budget, a minimal. We only need to do this once. And seeing if that's something that you'd be able to utilize and do it effectively. And if it's not anything you can do effectively, that's fine. But I mean, everywhere we go in Fall River, there's ARPA money, ARPA money, ARPA money. It's a one-time need. It's not something that needs to be budgeted consistently. And maybe it's something that can be discussed with you and then the mayor and go before the council for that. So I'm just worried about the education component.
Certainly.
So,
It's always a concern and great suggestion, Council.
okay, well, for whatever it's worth, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Council C2, Council.
Good evening. I'll start off with, I'll be supporting it because the Board of Election unanimously voted that this is something they want to follow through with. I do have some concerns, though.
Certainly.
So we have 4 elderly housing units that are going to be affected by this. Do we really think and believe that all of these elderly and some physically challenged people are actually going to leave where they are, get onto some form of transportation, go to the new polling places? Is that something you're going to track to see how the numbers go beyond this, to see if we've actually lost voters because it became an effort that they didn't want to deal with?
That's the bigger question heading into 2024, the kind of to-be-determined question, Counselor. One of the reasons why I think I recommended the changes, at least this year, post-2022, is thanks to the Votes Act. You know, the state legislature has now afforded every registered voter the opportunity to vote by mail. I think everyone has started to receive their vote-by-mail applications in the mail from Secretary Galvin's office. So that is now an option afforded to every registered voter. And beyond that, if someone is physically handicapped or physically not able to really leave their home, those voters, quite honestly, should be permanently voting by absentee. Those are the first voters that usually contact my office to request the affidavit for their doctor to sign. That way they can permanently receive an absentee ballot for every election. So that's something that I try to do, to at least to make sure the voters are aware about that, to make it easier for them. If it's still difficult for them, even though they only have to go down to the lobby to cast their ballot on election day, that they're aware that they can become permanent absentee voters. But I do think that thanks to the Votes Act, with voting by mail as an option now for every registered voter, it makes this change a little bit easier than it would have been, I think, pre-2022. But kind of tracking the voter turnout, it's always hit or miss depending on the election. I mean, for 2023, for example, in November, we only had 11,300 voters. In November 2022, it was 17,000 registered voters turning out to participate. And in 2020, it was 33,000. So it just depends on the election and what's taking place that particular year. So it's always something that is kind of to be determined to track in terms of the overall voter turnout, especially for one particular address.
Right, well, and it's always been the local elections versus state and federal elections are apples and oranges.
Very much so.
And always-
Unfortunately,
Yeah,
it
and
disappoints me a great deal, but
and always
unfortunately that's the
have,
case.
and always have been. But where we've been seeing, even with the mail-in voting, we've been seeing a drastic decline in voting. So I'm just a little concerned if this will affect that. Because there are people who really don't like the mail-in voting. They feel like it isn't anonymous, because obviously their names have to be right there. And there are people that don't care for that. So I don't know, but it's just something I want to throw out there and
No,
see
no,
if moving forward, if there was gonna be a way to track it and see if we see a curve and whether it would be a good or a bad, just for future reference. Another question is, in terms of using the VSO's vehicle, I could be wrong, but I believe that on Tuesdays, they transport to the VA hospital. That's not gonna affect that?
Based upon the conversation I had with Director Hamilton, I think she is getting another vehicle for that day for that purpose. I think she's purchasing another
Well, the
van,
city
I
council
believe.
voted to use funding to purchase another vehicle,
Right, so she's
correct?
utilizing, I think, another vehicle for that day for that purpose. So that way, we can use the bus for transportation.
Okay. Now, is that the vehicle that requires a CDL license? Because I know she does have one vehicle.
Yes, it is.
It
So
is.
we've arranged that with Director Denmead.
Okay. My last question is, I know that the South End neighborhood uses Good Shepherd Church for their meetings.
Yes.
They are required to pay for an insurance policy for liability purposes. That if somebody attending a meeting gets hurt, there's a policy to take care of that so that the liability doesn't fall on the church. Are we gonna run into that type of a situation where some of this voting now has been switched over to the churches and Good Shepherd's being one of the churches?
Not that I've been told by Director Nelson, the director of the Parish Outreach Center. That was not an issue that was raised by her or Father Federici or from St. Anthony's Church as well.
Okay, because, like I say, just the fact that I know that they're required to do that
Right.
became a concern. With that, I yield.
Thank you, Counselor. Right, I just want to point out, I mean, to Counselor Ponte's point about people not reading their mail, I agree with him. The notice that you have at the polling place, what's it gonna look like? It has to stand out, it has to be bigger than any other notice.
Oh,
Because people are gonna just walk to the door, see that there's no one there, think maybe election day is not today, and they're gonna just not read what's there. Have you thought about having an individual at the 8 polling places to tell people, listen, the polling place has changed, and this is your new polling place, or is that out of the question completely?
assigning one of my poll workers to be there?
Oh, yes.
It's certainly something I can do. especially for the first election, that's
Because
definitely a
that would be
possibility.
most effective. And now you say just for the first election, but a lot of people don't vote in the primary. The percentages are way down compared to the final election, so I think you're probably gonna have to do it twice. But I think it's most effective way is to have one poll worker at the entrance of all of these new locations, or the old locations, telling them exactly where their new location is. Because to the point, if an elderly person shows up there and it's 7 o'clock, it's dark, and, well, it probably won't be dark then, but it might be, they're not gonna wanna, if there's no lighting on the door, they're not gonna be able to read it, they're not gonna see it. I mean, it gets complicated when you just put a notice on the door.
True.
But
I
if an
mean,
individual's there, they can tell people while they're still in their cars, listen, this is the new location, it's been changed, and give them a card that gives them the address, or tells them where it is. Some people might not know where St. Anthony's of the Desert Parish is. You know, they might not know where these locations are, so I think it has to be more than something, just a sign on the door and hope that they see it.
Okay. no,
Last thing I
certainly.
want is Donald Trump to be knocking on your door saying, why'd you rig the election?
Right, yeah, that's certainly a possibility, and I can definitely arrange my poll workers to be there at least for the first couple of elections for 2024 to make people aware of that. My
I know
only
it's gonna cost
concern-
money, but I think it makes a big
Right, I
difference.
mean,
having
it would come out of my poll worker budget. I mean, it was gonna be a large poster posted outside of each location that was gonna be affected by the change.
But it's like the mail, they don't look at it. They don't
Right,
read
of
it,
course,
They see it,
right.
they see the place
I
is
know,
dark,
that was
there's no
actually the
lights, they
point,
turn
but-
around, and says, maybe today's not election day.
Right, and then I don't want that to be the case, of course, but I just want to make sure it's not a concern that one of my poll workers says, I don't want to be here for the duration of the day, and, I mean, it's definitely something I can try to arrange by having several people at
Yeah,
least try to
exactly.
rotate or
Have 'em in shifts,
be
a great
innovative
idea.
with it, certainly, Mr. President.
All right. There being no further questions, thank you very much for coming down and explaining all of that. It's
Thank you very much.
entertaining.
Thank you.
So is there a motion to adopt the changes?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk?
Have the election results of the November 7th election.
Motion to accept?
Second.
Motion accepted, is made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Whereas budget season is approaching, and whereas there have been continued conversations regarding the Parks Division and their lack of staff, and whereas continued strain on the Parks Division could lead to a reduced quality of life for our residents, now therefore be it resolved that the Committee on Finance meet with the Board of Park Commissioners to discuss the needs of this division ahead of the next budget season and to advocate on their behalf.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt is made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Whereas community organizations such as the Creative Arts Network, Viva Fall River, and others have put on many different exciting events in 2023, and whereas many of these events were well-attended and enjoyed by all, and whereas these efforts should continue to be supported and highlighted, now therefore be it resolved that the Committee of Economic Development and Tourism invite these community organizations to discuss their 2023 year in review, share ideas for plans in 2024, and how we can further support their efforts to benefit the residents of the city of Fall River.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt has been seconded. On the motion, Council C5, Council Vice President Pereira.
Yeah, I just have one thought. On resolution number 10, it appears to be the same kind of resolution, you know, regarding funding and tourism, et cetera. Can these be combined somehow? I don't know. I'm not the sponsor of either one, but Counselor Sampson and Counselor Reposa put in resolutions that appear to be the same, you know, similar.
Yeah, want to make a motion to amend
That maybe these can
it?
be merged together.
Once we get to it amended.
So if we want to amend it, could we take item 10 now and talk about that? Maybe we can amend it.
You can
I'll leave
amend
it
it,
up
Council.
to my
Council, you
colleagues.
can amend it, just saying that we want to incorporate item number 10 with this resolution. I think
Would that be okay?
I'll let you speak to it
Do you
first.
yield, Councilor?
I yield.
Council C8, Council Sampson.
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I honestly, I'm reading yours. I just want to know what they're doing, how they've spent the money, what's been going on. So if, you know, I would assume that's what you're looking for, share the ideas. You know, we could put them together. Makes sense to have them come down, you know.
Same thing.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's-
Motion.
Motion, I yield to my,
Okay. Thank you, Council. Council C2, Council C2, did you have your hand up?
Yes. Could I make a motion to waive the rules and have the city administrator come down? I want to ask a couple of questions that relate directly to this.
As long as they relate directly to this, that's fine. Is there a motion to waive the rules?
I'll second it. She made the motion.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I think between the two resolutions, we're going to have a significant number of people sitting at this table answering questions, trying to give us information.
Well, I think it's the same person, it's just different questions. How'd you spend the money, and one is how you're gonna plan to spend it for next year.
So my questions are, any approved projects are tracked, correct?
Correct.
Any approved projects, until they complete a project, turn in receipts or some form of documentation, don't get funded.
Are we talking about
With
ARPA projects in general?
Yeah,
Yes.
so,
I mean, they're not all reimbursement, but that's mostly how they work, yeah.
okay. So I guess what I'm getting at, would it make sense to, because also the money has to be dedicated by December 31st, 24 of this year, expended by December 31st, 2025. I'm assuming at some point, any funding that is still, that hasn't been used, at some point is going to be called back. I don't want to, call back isn't the right word, but reallocated perhaps, because the feeling is you won't have time to expend it once you start getting to the end. But I guess more what I'm getting at is, would it make sense to have the opera director and yourself come to the table, get the questions, explain what projects have been completed, what projects haven't, what the cost has been, how much money still remains in those accounts? That's what I'm getting at, that it might streamline it, make this whole process a little bit easier.
Point of clarification, if I could.
Council seat 7, Council Pozo.
Just to both resolutions, one is going to tourism.
The other's going to finance.
No. The one I filed is going to tourism.
The other's going to finance.
Yeah, but my point is gonna be that I think the conversation I'm looking to have in the Subcommittee of Economic Development and Tourism is about the events we've had and what they're planning to do. Council Sampson's resolution more talks about the financial piece of the ARPA
Correct.
update. So, I mean, I don't think that it's appropriate to put them together, because then you're either gonna have both in tourism, both in finance. I don't think it's appropriate to do
Yeah,
that.
then we won't put it together.
I yield, thank you.
Thank you, Council.
So in terms of Counselor Sampson's, I guess, since that's one that would be going to finance,
Yeah.
would that be, I don't want to call it a better approach, but would that make it simpler? Do you think that would result in what she's looking for?
I don't. So I think what you're proposing makes a lot of sense, because I think it would be helpful for any folks watching, as well as the council, to know, how the money is being spent, how much of it's been spent, where those projects stand. Specifically, with regard to any of the reimbursement-based projects, one where there's a contract and we get invoices and then we pay on the invoices based upon, due diligence, making sure they've done what they say they've done. That's pretty much what we're talking about with Ms. Rigo's organization, with Viva, and the tourism piece that they're doing. So that's probably its own hearing, to be honest with you, because I think they've done so much, and each of those falls into a category in their proposal and in their contract. So I think that might actually be a pretty involved conversation, and folks might want to understand in terms of communications, in terms of web presence, in terms of, general marketing and actual events, and, how they've partnered on other things, with the city, and whether that's been part of the, all those questions. I think, certainly fair game. I think that's probably its own thing. And then if Attorney Hum and I were to come down and do a presentation, I would love to do that, because I would love for both the council and the public to know how the ARPA money is being spent and where it stands.
Okay.
And then the one thing, just so we don't put it out there that we're getting ready to claw back money.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I think that because the money has to be committed by December 31st of this year, that commitment has to have a contract attached to it.
Right.
And then from there, there is time, thereafter. So I don't know that we're in that realm yet. I just don't want people to start worrying that, oh my gosh, the city's gonna start taking back money. I think we're a little bit from there yet, but we are watching really carefully.
Yep, noted. And yes, I was looking more long-term with that, but, so it would essentially be then two separate meetings. One to address her resolution, and then one for the two of you to come down.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would probably be give the most and the clearest information to the council.
Okay, thank you. With that, I yield.
Thank you. Thank you, Seth, appreciate it. Council seat 6, Council Parte.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be real quick. On the resolution, item 8 that's before us right now, I think one of the biggest weaknesses that we have as a community is we have all these organizations, and there's synergy with them independently. There's not synergy with them collectively.
Absolutely.
And so I hope that if the Economic Development and Tourism Committee, which I chair, can come out of this by seeing if there's a plan to be cohesive, as there's a lot of politics involved, right? Being direct and real with you, and my colleagues know this. Different groups have different expectations, have different budgets, are treated differently, et cetera. So I'm hoping that the subcommittee would be able to dive deep into this to try to find a way where there could be some cohesion instead of working in these specific silos that they've been working on since they've been created. So, you know, that's going to be, I don't want to amend it because it's going to happen organically, I believe, with the resolution. But I just want to make it clear, that's a big need that this community has. CAN does great work, Viva Fall River does great work, all these different organizations do great work, but there's no cohesion as them all coming together. It's a problem. And I think the mayor's made some great efforts in trying to bring them together, and I understand there's politics attached to it, but I think we need to do a better job because it's impacting the community when there's this divide between these great organizations who do such good work. So I'm going to make sure that to our colleague in seat 7's resolution, I think this is a good resolution. I like the different component of the finance component and then digging into sharing ideas and trying to find a better way where they could streamline their processes and give a better result to our community. So I yield. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you.
No further questions. Motion to adopt item number 8 has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk?
Whereas the Fall River City Council is responsible for the liquidation and sale of real estate assets owned by the city, and whereas the City Council recognizes the need to engage professional real estate brokerage services to effectively market and sell these assets, and whereas the City Council wishes to leverage the expertise and market knowledge of qualified real estate brokers to ensure a transparent and efficient sales process, now therefore be it resolved that the City Council hereby requests the issuance of a request for proposals from qualified and licensed real estate brokerage firms for the purpose of marketing and selling city-owned real estate assets to be published and circulated in accordance with established procurement procedures and guidelines. And be it further resolved that an RFP be issued for each building outlining the scope of services required, evaluation criteria, terms and conditions for the engagement of real estate brokerage services. And be it further resolved that a selection committee comprised of 5 members be established with the city administrator acting as chair, 2 members appointed by the City Council President, and 2 members appointed by the mayor. And be it further resolved that all offers received be presented to the City Council Committee on Real Estate for review and recommendation to the full City Council.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt made second. On the motion, Council seat 6, Council Parte.
Thank you. So this is the purpose of this resolution, and I indicated at our last meeting, is I understand that the city has an obligation through its municipal government process to follow its chapter, 30 or whatever it is, when it comes to liquidating and selling of real estate or assets owned by the city. I find the process to be archaic. I find the process to be, honestly, a non-transparent process, a process that only a select group of individuals may or may not know about. It's concerning to me where we're going to be eventually taking, we took a school back, we're going to be taking additional schools back through the reverter clause, that, we're going to put an RFP out and hope somebody gets it, and we have to pick the best one. There's no highest and best process. None of that process is happening when it comes to selling assets. I will say this, though, for the record. I recognizing that I am a real estate broker and I own a real estate company in the city, I did file a conflict of interest disclosure with the clerk's office about this. I have zero interest in, representing the city to do this, or anybody in my office has no interest in doing it. I want to make that clear. But we have a process, and I understand that there's procurement law and all that other stuff, but the process by which we sell assets in this city is antiquated. And I can bring you back to a time where a prior administration wanted to sell trash trucks, okay? And I don't want to go down memory lane here, but we were auctioning them off, and we were selling them for $5,000 a truck. I'm not sure if any of my colleagues remember that, where we were trying to get rid of our trash trucks. And then we ended up rejecting as a body the process by which we were doing that, and then we ended up selling them for a couple of $1 million because the process was antiquated, old, and it didn't make any sense. The process by which we liquidate real estate is archaic. So I'm hoping, even if Corporation Counsel wants to take a look at this, I want to urge my colleagues to try to find a different way for us to dispose of real estate, dispose of assets that we have as a community. I'm not saying that we have to, call an auctioneer to sell old printers or old chairs or anything like that. But when it comes to tangible, real property, we have a real problem in the archaic process that we have as a community to liquidate real estate. For example, the Bank Street Armory is going to come back before us. Now, how do we know as a council that that is the highest and best offer we received? Well, we know that because we went through an RFP process that's antiquated, old, and ridiculous. And we said, all right, well, we got one offer, we got one bid through the RFP process, and we have to accept this offer because it's the only thing that we received. How do we know if we didn't put this on the market with a commercial real estate broker, put it on a LoopNet or a CoStar website, through the RFP process that we hire the real estate broker or commercial broker to do it, that we wouldn't have got an offer for $450,000? How do you know back 10 years ago when this council sold buildings for $2,000 or $1,000 that were literally knocked down and sold for several $100,000 for you to go and build houses on it? We as a council have a responsibility to the taxpayers. Everybody says that. We all get elected and we all campaign, we all say that. But this is a real example of how we can fine-tune the system to do this effectively, because we're not doing it. I have no idea what the administration's plans are for some of these schools that we may be taking back or may not be taking back. There's no process by which. We're gonna put an RFP out and hope some guy comes or some lady comes and accepts a bid offer, and it's great, we're gonna accept it because we have to. And it's just, in my opinion, it's wrong. We as a council have the legislative ability to change the way we do this. And I think it needs to be more thorough, more open, and more transparent, and it isn't right now. So that was the purpose of me filing this resolution. I know there's a lot there, but that's the reason why I wanted to do it, and let's hope that I can get the support from my colleagues on this resolution. I yield. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Council. Council C1, Council Kadim.
And I applaud my colleague for filing the resolution. The only problem is that we're still going to be with the antiquated process, because even if we go out through an RFP for a real estate agent to come in, we still have to follow 30B, which is going to require the posting of goods and services and 30-day procurement, and you got to have bids. So you're still going to have to follow it. The only thing that we're probably essentially going to do is have to kick a commissioning portion to a real estate agent. What I will say, because I don't disagree with them, I think, municipalities, and it's not just the city of Fall River, it's municipalities across the Commonwealth, I think they tend to become a little bit complacent in terms of just going above and beyond in terms of advertising and just focusing on the central register or hiring an auctioneer to come in. But the process still comes through. We've got to go through the city council for real estate. And there's always language in any RFP that the municipality reserves the right to reject all proposals. So we don't have to accept them. The city council voted to accept those at $2,000, $5,000 because they felt the value that was going to be added by getting it back onto the tax rolls and into a developer's hands, outweighed, $100,000, or whatever it may be. But I think we just need to, I think you can accomplish both, right? You can sell it for a higher amount, put some restrictions on what that land is going to be used for, or you just sell it and say there's no restrictions, and that's probably where you're going to get more money for it. You're not having somebody come in and saying, hey, I want to bid for this property, because when they say we sell it, we want to know what they're going to do with the property, right? So they've got to put a proposal as to what that development looks like. And I think, when you start doing that, it handcuffs people in terms of what they really want to do in case something does change, because then, you got reverter clauses. We've seen what happened with some of the schools. They said they were going to do X, Y, and Z, and then, we're trying to claw that back to get that property because they're not living up to the end of it. But I think the true issue becomes the 30B process, right? You still have to go through that that process, with the state, which is, unless that's changed, you can't do anything with it, so. And that's to purchase and sell property, so with that, I yield.
Yeah, the state doesn't make it easy, that's for sure. Thank you, Counsel. Counsel C4, did you have your hand up?
Yes, exact comments I was going to make. I understand the spirit of the resolution. I don't think I'm in favor of killing it, but it's definitely worth some discussion. I mean, the resolution doesn't state if it probably should go to ordinance. Number one, brokerage firm, commissions, 6%, I'm assuming, right? Again, I understand the intent. There's a lot of corruption. I'm not afraid to say it. There was a lot of shenanigans that went on under the career administration, and we're paying for it.
Careful, Counsel, there's two career administrations.
Yes, well, Jay's whole career. There was a lot of shenanigans there, we know that. So I definitely appreciate the intent. And these major assets, I think this is something to be, to take a look at. But 30B is definitely, it's hamstringing, and so, maybe this should get referred to finance. We can have legal counsel down here to discuss further. And I'd ask that we amend the resolution to refer this to ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you making that in the form of a motion or not?
Yes. Yeah.
Is there a second on the motion to refer it to finance?
Second.
Refer to ordinance, please.
For the ordinance?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's not what I was gonna say.
That's all right. So motion has been made to refer to the ordinance committee. Is there a second? Second. On the motion, Counsel C5, Counsel Vice President Pereira.
No, I think it should go to the real estate committee. They can have the attorney go to the real estate committee and look. If real estate is the one that deals with properties and real estate of the city, then that would be a good committee for it to go to. We're not gonna go to an ordinance and change an ordinance. Let's have some discussion first. If real estate committee finds with an attorney that maybe we should do X, Y, and Z, then fine, bring it back and we'll send it to ordinance with whatever changes real estate committee feels. But I think it should go to a real estate committee.
Just point
to
of
be discussed.
clarification for myself, my comments. I think this is
Okay,
gonna.
wait, I'll
I'm sorry.
yield.
I'm sorry, Counsel
No,
Burke.
that's okay.
I think this is gonna require a new ordinance.
Possibly, to her point, you
But
air
if
it out in
I,
the committee
yeah,
and you
I
refer to the
chair real
ordinance.
estate, so I'd be really happy to take it and refer it to ordinance once we get legal counsel down. That's not a problem.
Just
I
to
know your
see.
committee's busy, by the way, so I'll take it.
Can I just, point of information, can I just
I know it's busy.
ask the?
Counselor, you yield?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Counsel C1, Counsel Kadim.
Just point of information through you, Mr. President, to my colleague who filed the resolution. What, was there an intent as to what committee you wanted this to go to, or?
No,
put
no,
real
think,
estate on here.
if I can, Mr. President.
Sure, absolutely.
I'll just say, if I could, just for one moment. If 30B would be changed at the state level, that would need to be done through a legislative body, through a home rule petition, correct?
Correct.
So if a committee meets, whether it's the Committee on Finance or the Real Estate Committee or the Committee on Ordinance, whoever, and it's the will of this council to recognize that we need to change the process that's antiquated and old, why not lead the process by possibly talking to one of our reps and filing a home rule petition to allow local cities and towns or their local town administrators or town managers, or through their select board, the ability to liquidate real estate to get the highest amount of return for its taxpayers. I mean, I'll go to Boston and I'll advocate for that anyway. And I know my colleague in seat one and Council Vice President and I, we tried to do that years ago for net school spending and we got shut down. But how this doesn't help every single community in the Commonwealth blows my mind, and it should blow all of our minds. So to your point, to my colleague in seat one, I'll say that if what comes of this is our council files a home rule petition to get a rep to pick this up and move this forward at the state level, that's a win. That's not only a win for Fall River, but that's a win for all local cities and towns in this state. So if that comes of it, that's a win.
Thank you, Counsel. Counsel C1, you still have the floor.
No, yeah. I appreciate that. I was just trying to figure out which committee, if we were gonna send it somewhere, where.
I don't care, whatever
You don't-
committee
you
that
don't
can
care.
maybe do a home rule petition, start the process.
Okay.
We'll form a new home rule petition committee next week.
Listen, I sit on, I think I sit on the real estate committee, I'm not sure,
You
but
sit on both.
I do.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
so
do.
either way, I'm gonna maybe I want to hang out with Brad for
Thank you.
There you
for
go.
a change,
Finally
so.
said it.
Maybe the discussion is worth having in real estate committee, and then, getting the, the stakeholders at the table to have a conversation, and maybe we can have maybe a representative come down and have those conversations with us.
Yeah.
So,
Motion to refer to real estate?
Second.
On the motion, Council seat 3, do you have your hand up? You want to speak?
Did I?
No, Council seat 3, Council Hart.
No,
Okay.
I was gonna refer to real
Okay.
estate, make a motion.
Yeah, look, I honestly think it's a good resolution, and it's a starting point, as you said,
Yeah.
and if we can accomplish anything, let's begin the process, because it is a very complicated, convoluted way of distributing property. Motion to refer to Committee on Real Estate has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Whereas $670,000 in ARPA funding was appropriated to Viva Fall River for local tourism initiatives, and whereas there were various phases to the implementation of this project, now therefore be it resolved that the city administrator, as well as representatives from the One South Coast Chamber of Commerce and Viva Fall River, be invited to a future meeting of the Committee on Finance to provide an update on the programs brought forward and how the funds were expended.
Motion to refer to finance?
Seconded.
Motion for the Committee on Finance has been made and seconded. On the motion, Council seat 8, Council Sampson.
So I just, to go back to what we were talking about, it is, I mean, I think your proposal is great, and it does make sense that it is, but I just really, they were given a lot of money as to Councilor Ponte's, there is so many different art groups, so many out there. This group has given a substantial amount of money. I just think that we should know the great work that they've been doing, where they stand with the funds and how they've been spent at this point, and so, an in-depth look at that. So that's why I filed the resolution. So with that, I yield.
Thank you, Councilor. Motion to refer to committee, Council seat 7, Council seat 7, Councilor Reposo.
What kind of wave was that?
I
Did you have
think,
your hand up prior to that?
I did,
Oh, I never saw it.
yeah.
You gotta put it a little bit,
Yeah,
Just like this,
I'll
huh?
do
I'm usually pretty good.
airplane directions. So I think this is a good opportunity to expand on Council Sampson's resolution, that an opportunity where we give the public a little more information about where we stand with both the ARPA money of the city and the Bristol County ARPA money. So I would propose a amendment to the resolution to include a presentation from the administration of the current projects of the city ARPA money and the Bristol County ARPA money, where those balances stand, and then what is remaining, and then what is the plans going ahead for the remainder of the money.
Well, wouldn't that be what they're asked to do? I think
Just on tourism?
that the city'd come down and he'd love to give a presentation and explain what.
Well, but in terms of the resolution, we're only talking about one group. I would like to then expand that to say there's a lot more ARPA money that's encumbered, being spent, and it's not something that's readily available to the public to understand. So I'd like to give the administration the opportunity, and Attorney Hum the opportunity to come down and make a presentation to the council to give a full picture of where we stand with all that.
On every group that's receiving money, or just, do you have any group
The
particular?
whole thing. City ARPA money and the Bristol County ARPA money.
Okay, I'm not sure the intent was to do that. I think she was just focusing on one group in particular.
And I don't disagree with her, but I'm looking at this and saying, okay, there's also a bigger picture here. We talk about this money that's being spent. It's millions and millions of dollars being spent. I'm not sure the public fully grasps what has been spent, what is being used, and what's left.
Okay.
So that's the form of my,
So that's your motion?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. On the motion, Council seat 2?
Yeah, I believe that was the conversation that the city administrator and I just had, and that he agreed that he would like to do that and make the presentation to us?
I just want to put in black and white, council, that's all.
Okay. That
I thought that's what I said.
It is, but
Could we do it in another resolution? Could he file one?
Thought I was having
We're on
a
the same
senior
page.
moment
We're
for
saying
no,
the same
you're
thing at
not,
this point.
you're not.
It's all semantics.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think everybody's saying the same thing. We would like to have that, but if they're gonna have just one and finance and everybody else, that's gonna be maybe a finance committee meeting that's on another night, because that's gonna be a long meeting. I think
Well, we'll
going
put
with,
together, and then he can tell us how long his presentation. If it's 10 minutes, we'll have it one night. If it's 2 hours, we'll have it another night.
4.
maybe two separate resolutions. I think that, Councilor Reposa is a good resolution, see where we stand with that. Maybe file that, so everything else, and this one will be just on the tourism aspect. I just
Council
don't
seat-
want it to,
Do you yield, Councilor?
I do.
Council seat 7, Council Reposo.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to the point that, like tonight, we had a finance meeting that lasted 3 minutes. So.
Should have
we
filed this last month, we would have referred to finance.
Thank you,
We could've
Mr.
done it.
President. I appreciate
I
that.
wish you would have been there.
Yeah, that's okay, but.
No, I mean, you can't blame anybody else, it wasn't filed,
Reality
we
is,
couldn't have it.
wasted time is time wasted, so it's an opportunity to have a full, discussion about where we stand. Listen, we talk about the concerns of one-time money and where all the money is spent. Here's the opportunity to have that conversation.
Yeah.
So why not use the time and do it?
Council, we're all, no one's disagreeing, but I mean, they say wasted time, and there was no wasted time today. The city ordinance says we have to have a meeting at one time, and you have to have the other one at the other time, and there was nothing in finance, so
We have the
we
motion.
did it. It's semantics, trust me.
Great,
I know we have the motion.
absolutely.
Anything else?
No, I yield, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
No.
Do you want to waive the rules, have Seth come down and tell us again what he wants to do, or how long it's going to take him? All right. On the motion, roll call. Can you, Madam Clerk, do you want to read the motion that was amended? Just to get it
Do
clear?
you care if it gets amended?
I don't care, as long as it's gonna answer the questions from South Coast Chambers. I don't care how you slice it or dice it, so I'm fine.
It's up to the council.
Point of information.
Sure.
I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it's two separate issues. I don't feel like it's an amendment. I feel like we're gonna move forward with the resolution, and we're gonna move forward with a presentation from the city administrator and Attorney Hom to enlighten us on where we are in the opera process.
I agree.
I yield.
Council Sampson.
I guess I'm just, my head's spinning now. I think that, Councilor Reposo wants a detailed list of every grant and where it's spent and where they stand. If that's what you want to do, I mean, in this, project in particular, I had some concerns about before and where that was, and, it being New Bedford, Fall River, South Coast Chamber, and, where they stood before, so I wanted some insight, but if, they're gonna put together a more detailed thing. I just think that that's gonna be a very long meeting. There's millions of dollars, millions of money, different projects to be out there. Just kinda wanted to see where they stood, but.
All right,
I-
listen, very simple, we can focus on this resolution as it stands without the amendment, and if anybody wants to file a resolution asking for more details on everything else, we can take that issue up separately.
Call the question, Mr. President.
Excuse me?
Can we?
We can, roll call. And
What is the
please
roll
let
call on
the-
now?
She's gonna,
Because-
the clerk's gonna read it as amended right now. Madam Clerk?
The amendment was that a review be made of all of the opera projects and funding, and that a presentation be made of all opera funding in the Finance Committee as to where we stand.
And that would be amended to number 10.
Yes.
Correct. On top of number 10.
Just put that on the finance. that one.
On the motion has been made and seconded, roll call.
On the amendment, Councilors Kadim,
Yes.
Dion,
Yes.
Hart,
Sure.
Kilby,
Affirmative.
Yes,
Pereira,
yes,
Conti,
Yes.
Reposo.
Yes.
Sampson,
Yes.
President Camacho.
No.
okay.
Motion carries. Madam Clerk?
Whereas a number of high-profile lawsuits have been filed against the city, and whereas outside counsel is often hired to represent the law department with these matters, now therefore be it resolved that the Committee on Finance meet in executive session with the city administrator, corporation counsel, and director of financial services to provide an update regarding the financial impact and timeline of these cases.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Second.
Motion to adopt has been made and seconded. On the motion, Council, do you wish to speak?
Just pretty clear and simple, if we have to go into executive session, I don't want to know details of a case or where it stands, but how many lawsuits do we have? Are we taking care of it, handling it in-house? Are we going out-house, to an outside attorney? Because these are big lawsuits coming, and I would just like to know a little bit about what we are looking at from a financial standpoint.
Motion to adopt?
Seconded.
Motion to adopt has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
See, the President opposed. Not with the intent, Counselor, I am not a fan of executive session. That's why I oppose it. There's a lot of other ways of getting our information. I don't think the council should be meeting in executive session. I don't ever remember doing it. So, Council
I
Vice
only
President?
remember executive session once, when we built this building and we had problems with the roof, and I think Jack Maderas had asked for executive on one thing. After that, I've never seen an executive session, but I think that this is a question for the legal department, if we should have it in executive session or not, because I'm not an attorney, maybe my colleague to the right could advise us, or Corporation Counsel could advise us. I don't want to spill the beans on what cases are what and who's what, and
I'm not a
wanna know
fan
where
of
we are
executive session,
financially.
and that was way before my time when Jack McDavis was
I'll
on the
take a
council.
retainer and I can give some information. We did go to executive session with KP Law recently, a couple of years ago.
And the chief,
Oh.
police chief, Steph.
And the
Yes.
chief, yeah,
Yeah, I don't recall, but
yeah.
I know. I
Oh, well,
was
well, I think that's a decision that can be made at a later date.
It's been a
Okay.
while.
Motion carries. Madam Clerk?
Item number 12 is the police chief's report.
To adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I have an application for the renewal of an auto repair shop license for Richard Torres at 428 Pleasant Street.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I have a number of claims.
Motion to refer to Corporation Council.
Motion for the corporation has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I have a drain layer application on behalf of RMT Excavation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
We have minutes of the meeting of the City Council and Organization of Government held on January 2nd.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The communication from the Taunton River Stewardship Council and their annual report and outlining the need for a delegate position.
Motion
Motion
to
to
accept,
accept.
place on file.
Second.
Motion to accept and place on file has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
A communication from city residents regarding the charter recommendations from the Special Charter Review Committee.
Motion to accept, place on file.
Motion to accept and place on file has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next, at the request of the council, we have the Bank Street Armory proposal.
Motion to waive the rules.
Second.
Motion to waive the rules has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
President opposed. Motion carries. Roll call. Let's get it straight.
I have a question. I have a couple questions for the city administrator. If you guys want to just vote on it, you can vote on it, but,
What's your question, Counselor? Do you want to just tell us what the question is?
yeah, I got a number of them. I have a question about a reverter clause. What happens if this doesn't happen? What happens if he doesn't get funding? What happens, if he doesn't meet his deadlines?
Yeah, that's why we should probably not raise it from the table today, because in fairness to the counselor, he is newly elected, has not been briefed on a lot of
I mean,
stuff.
these questions, Mr. President, could be answered easily. I'm sure the administration can answer them. I just have a couple questions.
Not a problem. Motion to waive the rules has been made and seconded. Roll call.
Councilors Kadim,
Yes.
He has questions for the
Dion?
mask.
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Kilby,
Yes.
Pereira,
Yes.
Ponte,
Yes.
Reposo.
Yes.
Sampson,
Yes.
President Kamara.
Yes. Come down, please, sir.
I don't want to have to vote if he has questions. That's not fair.
Just tell him that. If I don't. Sorry? I didn't use that else.
Mr. President?
Counsel seat six, Counsel Ponte?
Thank you. Ms. Aiken, and I appreciate the fact if you don't have any of the, some of the answers to these questions. Question number one that I have is this. Has the current buyer made any indication to you that he is going to be going for a TIF or a tie if he buys this piece of real estate?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, meaning he is going to go for a TIF or a tie.
He has made an indication to me that he's going to go for a TIF or a tie.
Okay. You didn't get into any indication of how long that's going to be or anything along those lines?
Nope. The
Okay.
terms of that have not been negotiated, not,
Is the purchase subject to him closing, him getting a TIF or a tie?
I don't believe so, no. There's no condition that I'm
Is-
aware of.
So there's no contingency, so no PNS has been signed because the order that's before us is going
Correct.
to allow the mayor and corporation council to prepare a PNS to sign to move forward with Mr. Malcomber on this purchase, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so there's a long process and that we need to, you're going to go through before you sign a PNS here, correct?
Certainly.
All right. Was an appraisal done on this building at all?
I
Do you
believe there
know?
were several appraisals over years done in this building.
But for this specific RFP that was responded to, was there an appraisal done?
I believe there was.
I don't believe there was. I think Mr. Malcolm said here, he
The
never
most
seen an
recent
appraisal.
one, I'm sorry. The most recent one, I believe, was done by RDA prior to them transferring ownership to the city.
When they bought it from the city 4 years ago or
Was
something
that in
like
2015?
it was more recent than 2015. 2015 was the assessment by
Stark
Stark
Architect.
Architects
Okay.
regarding what the cost, estimated cost would be in 2015 dollars to rehabilitate the armory.
Okay. So we don't know. We don't know what the as-is appraised value of this property is right now. And
My
if you-
understanding that is zero.
Zero?
That's what I've been told.
Can't be zero.
It has no saleable value in its current condition.
That's what the stock appraisal suggested.
Point of
2015.
information, that's due to the fact, the cost for rehabilitation versus the current.
I'm sorry, with all due
I'm sorry.
respect. I'm
With
sorry.
Joe-
This
yeah.
doesn't make any sense to me, right? How could a building be worth zero? If the building is ready to be knocked down, there's still a land value. It's appraisal 101.
The cost to knock it down would probably offset the land value. That's how it could happen.
Well, then that's not how the appraisal market works.
Understand,
The appraisal market works that you have three different costs of value. You have an income approach, which it doesn't generate. You got a market approach, and you got a reconciled value approach. All these three market approaches, which is the same thing appraisers, our appraiser does to determine the tax factor every single year, indicates the property's worth something. So if and I know you've been put on the spot here, Mr. Aiken, today, and I totally respect that. I would much rather know that we don't know what the appraised value is, because we're all speaking in hypothetical terms right now. It can't be worth zero, and if it's worth zero, I want to question the fact that it's worth zero, because some of my colleagues have walked through that building. I haven't. I don't know if newly elected Councilor Hart in seat 3 has, but some of these councilors sitting in this room in the prior council walked through the building and have told me personally that this building isn't as bad as the pictures in the Fall River Herald News tell you it is. So, for it to be worth zero doesn't pass the straight face test to me. That just doesn't make any sense to me. All right,
I just
so
want to point out, the stock appraisal that was done in 2015.
what is a stock appraisal, Mr.
Stock
Becker?
architect, stock architect.
An architect determine the appraised value of a
Yeah.
Well,
property?
the architect gave the value, gave a value, well, I'm sorry, an estimate of what the repairs would be. And based upon that, my understanding is that the offset comes out to zero. Knock the thing down, I think the removal of whatever the debris was
That's where
is
it came
worth
from.
more than the land.
All right, but generally speaking, just so everybody's aware, an architect doesn't determine the as-is value of a piece of real estate.
I agree with
That's
that.
not how it works. So,
So if you like, I can go to my office and get with find the supporting documentation if I have it. If we could recess for maybe 30 minutes, I could probably do that.
it's up to my colleagues about it, but I'm just saying, the building has value to it. And if we don't know what the appraised value is, that's okay. All right, if some of us know it, great, but I don't know it, and I'm not necessarily gonna cast my vote on it. I'm just asking a follow-up question. I think it's valid, because if the building's worth $575 and we're selling it for $2, even though there's an RFP process, we do have the ability to reject the proposal. So, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
So I think the fact that
Oh, thank you.
a number of armories similar to this one have been sold for $1 or given to different developers for development around the Commonwealth sort of supports the idea that there's no saleable value. Obviously, we're getting more than that.
Yeah, well, my esteemed colleague sent me over a copy of the appraisal, which I'll look at in a minute, but I have another question. In the proposal that was responded to by Mr. Macumber, it says that, but would be open to mixed-rate project. It says, we plan to redevelop the Armory into 37 market-rate apartments, but would be open to a mixed-rate project with 20% of the units being designated affordable. So what kind of guarantee does the city have that 20% of the units will be affordable? And what does the word affordable mean?
So from what I understand, Mr. Maycumber has I was here. He actually came down before the council prior to the changeover and represented that not only was he committed to affordable, but he was also committed to a veteran's preference, obviously not a veteran's guarantee. And I believe that his intent with the affordability piece is to take advantage of HDIP in order to do that. If he were to make them affordable, I don't know that what we're talking about is some sort of subjective standard on his part. I think he's going to go affordable based on a percentage of existing market rate housing in the area. So obviously, affordable, I think, means something different depending on where you are, depending on what the average what the average cost of housing is in that area.
I guess my question is the city gonna have any kind of protection?
I think there has to be. I mean, so if somebody's gonna represent to us that they're gonna do a percentage of affordable, there's gotta be accountability for that. There's oversight. I think that would certainly be part of any P&S that we sign.
Point of information.
Counselor C2?
There is nothing in writing, there is no guarantee on that. It was he would be open to it. Secondly, he recently went to the Historic Commission's meeting. He gave a lengthy presentation discussing many things. And in that presentation, the word affordable never was used, never came up. Everything was referred to as market rate during that presentation. With that, I yield.
There you go, sir. Counselor C6?
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'm not trying to make this longer than it needs to be, but I have some concerns. So, in his proposal, it says that he's relying on essentially $13.6 million. If you don't know the answer, it's okay. $13.6 million of different kinds of sources. He's putting, which is pretty much probably the building value, the developer's equity of $750,000. And then the rest is on HDIP, federal money, home partnership money, to be determined money, bank debt, probably gonna get a mortgage from a local bank for $5.1 million. If for some reason he is unable to get financing after he closes on it, are we right back to where we are today? Are you gonna draft language in the contract that says if for some reason the buyer is unable to get its necessary financing, the city will reserves the right to get the property back to dispose of it otherwise, if we go down this road?
So, practicing law, I've only done real estate law for about a dozen years. And I've never seen a P&S that didn't have some financing commitment language in it, right? I think that would have to be part of it, as part of the city's obligation to make sure that he has the ability to follow through on his commitments, one of those being the commitment to get the appropriate financing to do the project. If we sell the building to somebody that can't actually see the project through, I think that's really a terrible precedent to set and just bad practice. So in speaking with Attorney Thomas, who has been working on this project with us, I think there's, we're going to follow all the best practices, which would include a commitment paragraph in that P&S to make sure he has the ability to do the project.
But if for some reason he doesn't, he gets his deposit back and we're right back to where we are today. The question is more along the lines of, as he closes on it, like all these other schools that we have that we're taking back, or a couple of them, not all of them, that we take back, and there's an issue that he doesn't get a grant. Is this going to be all subject to him getting his grants before he closes?
I don't think he could do that, right? I think he has to be able to close on the property before he gets some of these grants. I would guess. This is me speculating at this point. So I don't think we can force him to get all the grant money to close on a property, to grant money on a property that he doesn't yet own, as a condition of closing. I do think that whatever we draft into the purchase and sale agreement is going to have responsibilities that he's going to have to follow through on, including contract language that survives the P&S that's going to require him to do a certain kind of project.
Okay. I don't know if any of I know you all have been here, so I don't have, I just wanted to ask some questions here. I don't even know if it's appropriate in the sense of, it's probably uncommon, probably wrong, but I guess my question is, could the council accept this, subject to approve the administration, go to a purchase and sales agreement, subject to the city council reviewing the terms of the purchase and sales agreement? Because I asked a number of questions, and with all due respect to Mr. Aiken, wasn't prepared to answer this tonight. And his opinion might change, or his answers might change on commitment and financing and grants and matching grants, and all these other things may change. So I guess my question is, could the city council agree to sell the property, subject to the city council mutually agreeing with the terms of the purchase and sales agreement?
Just as a separation of powers guy, I think that would be significantly beyond the city council's purview, but if that's what the city council wants to do, I think we would do our best to present a purchase and sale agreement that is in line with best practices.
We lose all of our, I mean, I don't want to sit here and have like a discussion about powers. The power of the city council is real estate. That's one of the only powers the city council has to dispose of real estate. So I guess I'm just throwing it out there for the purposes of discussion tonight. If the council wants to sell the real estate, which the city does a terrible job of selling real estate. I mean, we sold buildings, PNSs has just walked out of the building. Like, nobody even, like, they're gone, can't find them. Like, they just disappeared. We can't find them anywhere. They don't exist, right? So, I guess I'm just trying to say is, do we have that ability? And I'll throw that flare up in the air for my colleagues to discuss that tonight, if that's what we can and can't do. If we can't do it, I'm sure our colleague in seat one will tell us we can't do it. But if we can, we can. If we can't, we can't. But I don't want to lose our leverage here as a council when it comes to liquidating this. I agree it needs to be sold, okay? The city has done a terrible job of managing real estate for hundreds of years. The police station is one. I mean, we can go sit here and talk about this for decades. Should have sold that thing 30 years ago, but there was politics involved and it never happens. Now we're sitting on it and there's mushrooms growing out of them. But I had sentimental value because I used to walk up those stairs and play floor hockey when I was a kid. But nobody else sat here and talked about that in 1990, whatever it was. So we don't have the ability to manage our own real estate, never mind managing this building, is my current consensus right now. And Mr. Aiken, the city doesn't have the ability, is what you're saying, to maintain, preserve, and bring this back to the life that it was at before, correct?
So just so I'm clear on the question, what you're asking is, do we have the ability to take it from the condition it's in now, rehabilitate it, and then maintain it from here on out?
Right.
No,
We do not.
we do not.
Okay.
I mean, you could take all the money out of Lewiston Street, right? Not do it.
What does that mean? I heard my colleague say that. What does that
So
mean?
the DCM facility on Lewiston Street?
Yeah, what does it have anything to do with that?
So we're committing ARPA money to rehabilitate that building, that
Right.
facility. And part of that is going to create some facilities that hopefully will drive down the cost of trash, allow us to be more efficient in how we process certain things, as well as store and maintain our vehicles and equipment in
Okay.
a better facility. So
What
there's
does
a
that have
des-
anything to do with the Armory, though?
Well, that money is committed to Lewiston Street. If you want to take that money out of Lewiston Street and put it into the Armory, I suppose there's an argument there, but there's really no extra money other than that.
Oh, so what you're saying is you're budgeting millions of dollars of opera money to fix Lewiston Street, and the only other option we will have as a council, or you as the administration has, is fix Lewiston Street or fix the Armory. What has more priority? Is that what you're saying?
That's pretty much what we're saying,
Okay,
yes.
I understand. All right. I yield for now. I wanted to throw that up and see what my colleagues have to say about that. Thank
Just a
you.
point of information, Mr. President.
Sure, Councilor Santry.
Seth, can you expand on what you said is beyond the council purview? Expand on that.
So, I mean, my understanding is that appropriation is the major job of the council. I think that once the council begins to weigh in on things that would really be within the life of the legal department, negotiating PNSs or approving PNSs, I just think it's a creep towards a mixing of responsibilities.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor seat 8, Councilor Sampson.
So, Counselor Pont, thank you, Council President. Counselor Pont brought up some really good points about funding. Although grants, when it comes to grants, you're not going to get grants on a building that you could own. You can't say, can you throw me some money on a building that I don't quite own yet, but I might own, so depending on the vote. So the grants, so you have to own the property, get the property, and then apply for the grant. So I do like your idea very much so of putting some language in there that if we could do that. But I have a question, and while you're sitting here, we got a letter today from the Historical Commission. Had it on my desk, and they said in the letter, they wrote their opinion on the building, and it said that the proposed residential conversion does not meet the requirements of the preservation deed restrictions on this property. So, and I just seen this just now when we came down here. Does that mean that by selling this and doing for residential, we'd be doing something wrong with the deed?
I haven't seen the letter. I haven't watched the commission meeting yet, so I can't speak to that. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if any of my councils or lawyers have seen it, but it was, we literally, it just came on our desk today, and I just seen that, so I guess that's,
I mean, if it doesn't say specifically what it is about the deed restriction that it doesn't comply with, I think it's hard to speculate. But I think, one of the things that I have on my list of things to do is to watch, I try to watch the meetings generally of different boards and committees. That's one of them. And that would help me understand what the possible issues are.
I have been on the thing that I toured that building, and I am no President Joe Camara, who was in these structures all the time, and it looked pretty bad to me. I mean, if you can see the roof and you can see the floors all the way down, it's got some beautiful pieces to it, but I think if we can sell this and maintain the integrity of the building and keep it great, there were some really good points brought up tonight, so if we could, put some language in there about that, that would be pretty smart. And then find out if we can even convert it. This is just the opinion that we got tonight. So, with that, I'll yield to my colleagues.
Thank you, Counsel. Counsel C1, Counsel Kadim.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I just wanted to, make a statement that my colleague had mentioned. He asked the question as to whether or not, I guess there was any feasibility to operate the building and things of that nature. My colleague was in the mayor's office for a whole 5 minutes, so I would ask you rhetorically the question, when you were sitting there, if it was a priority, could it get done?
Of course.
It was a rhetorical question, but thank you for answering it.
You looked at it.
So there is, but it just comes at an expense, right? So it depends on what your priorities are, right? So if you can't necessarily fund it, you're gonna have to take away from something else. So you just gotta identify, is this a priority for the city? I would suggest that, the building in terms of operational expenses, it's been in the budget up until, 2014, 2015, was maintained and funded by the city budget, right? The operation, the expense, the electric and all that. The building itself, to me, when I toured it, I thought it was gonna be in worse shape than what it was. If you're not familiar with going into abandoned property and things of that nature, then going into this building and touring it, you would say, oh my God, it is in bad shape. I personally I expected it to be in worse shape than what it was. That being said, it is gonna cost at least $10 million to renovate the building and get it to where it needs to be. Now, the question comes back to funding. We've got CPC funds, we've got potentially other grants. I know, talking to the mayor, he said he's tried to get some grants. There's no grants that are currently available. But it comes back down to, what does that building have for potential? What do we want to see with it? Do we want to make sure that it incorporates municipal use? We talked about all these organizations. From my standpoint, it should be the hub of economic development and culture, things that we have been promoting lately. We have been talking about that. There is no reason why it can't be a mixed use in terms of that, where we collect rent. I know one of my colleagues had mentioned the veterans going over there. So there are opportunities, but with that, you gotta do a cost-benefit analysis and see, does the benefits outweigh the cost associated with, what we're gonna do away with in other areas of the city. And I've always said that, the city has not maintained its buildings. We don't do a good enough job of preventative maintenance to maintain these buildings. We talked about, DPW, we talked about the fire department here tonight. We talked about potentially doing something with the Stanley Fire Station, Central Fire Station. There's some things going on. So there's a lot going on in terms of that. But at the end of the day, from my standpoint, I don't know that I can support giving it away for more housing. You look at the TIF boards, everything that comes before us is a tie. It's, we've got more developments coming in, and now to throw the Bank Street Army and have that to be used for additional housing, I don't know that I support that. I've said that from the beginning, that was one of my concerns that I had. But I do want to see the building preserved. It is part of our skyline, and it should be part of our skyline. You go onto the city's website, you've got the video when you first get there. It's prominent. It's one of the drone footages that you see is the Bank Street Army. I think we need to maintain that. So it comes back down to, I think we're all on the same page of making sure that building's preserved. Now the discussion is, do we want to put it into the hands of a private developer and hope that the developer maintains that? And even going forward, long term, once it's out of our hands, it's out of our hands, right? That's the concern. Or do we want to keep it as part of a municipal asset that we've had and maintain it internally? for one, as it currently stands, if we're gonna take a vote tonight, would be a vote to make sure that the city continues to own and operate that building. That's my take. So with that, I yield.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor seat 5, Counselor Pereira.
I think that any developer is gonna get historic tax credits. They're gonna try to go get historic tax credits. And unfortunately, the only way you can get those tax credits are if you have a TIF or a tie. Other than that, you can't get them, correct? So that puts the city in a difficult situation. But there are other grants. As a matter of fact, I believe you're gonna be meeting, or the mayor is gonna be meeting with the Historic Commission, chair, or maybe some members, about them getting their certification for national
Correct.
commission. That will open up the door for them to get more funding. They can apply for CPC funding. You're not gonna get CPC funding for Lewiston Street, and they are apples and oranges.
That's
I
true.
get that there's, a balancing act that has to be done, but let the Historic Commission put it in their hands. They can get the same kind of funding that they get, that anybody else is gonna get, and it'll be for the city. And you can rent those places out. Look what they did with the Superior Court in Taunton. Lots of those are rented out to different nonprofits, et cetera. You can have transitional housing. There's so much you could do there. And I just think that sometimes we want the easy way out, just sell it and we don't have to worry about it. That's not fair. That's the last historic building that the city of Fall River owns, the last one. And I personally think it's worth saving for the community. And I agree with my colleague in seat number 1, for cultural things, for activities. We all sit here and talk how much the youth of our city means to us, and what do we do for the youth? What have we done for the youth? Besides, well, my colleague in seat 8 is having a fit over there because she did the whole program for youth, which we've done. But what else have we done for youth? It's like, this is a good opportunity. It's a good opportunity. So I'm ready to take a vote, Mr. President. With that, I yield.
Thank you. Counselor seat 2, there's no one else to speak, or does anyone else speak after
No.
Counselor seat 2 has the floor?
I'm not gonna go on and on.
Okay, Counselor seat 2.
So, Mr. McCumber stated that approximately $600,000 would be necessary to secure the roof, put in windows, do the pointing, put in the heating system. Once that would be done, that building is now secure. No more damage is going to occur. Now you can start the process of moving forward and creating whatever it is going to be created. He himself said it's going to take him at least 5 years to complete his project. So, nothing's happening tomorrow, but the fact of the matter is, the funding is there through the CPC to secure the roof, put in new windows, put in the heating system, do the pointing. My contention is, and no, I'm not an architect, I don't own a construction company or any of those things. However, I would be hard-pressed to believe that if we did those 4 things, you're not going to give that building value. And that more people, if we fail, if we can't move forward, at that point in time, the building's clean, it's secure, it has a value now. I'm hard-pressed to think that more people wouldn't come forward at that point because the groundwork will have been laid. And the last thing I would like to say is, well, not the last thing, I'll hold off on that one right this second, because I'm also thinking, there's tons of rental space in there to put towards the maintenance. You have financial institutions who, once that was up and operating again, probably would commit dollars every year, that all of that money could go into maintaining the building. I think it's a viable building. I think it can maintain itself with the right people spearheading it. And my last comment is, a handful of people saved a church. A community should be able to save the Armory. And with that, I yield.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Seth.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Call a question?
Council seat 6, Council Ponte?
Yeah, so, you know, I gotta be completely honest with you. I'm really torn about this. I know I was asked the question when I was running for city council again, what I thought about this, and I said, I think the city does a terrible job of selling real estate, we should sell it. And we should get rid of it. But I am concerned more on what the use is going to be. I'm gonna take this strong position. I don't think the city should be holding on to this and trying to maintain and preserve it, because we can't afford it. We can't afford to preserve it. We can't afford to keep the heat on. We can't do it. That's what they're saying to us. I mean, and for whatever it's worth, I want to just remind us, and we'll talk about this when we have one of the next updates. I mean, this city is so strapped for cash right now. You use $7.8 million of money, one-time money, to balance your current budget that you're in right now. I mean, like, that needs to be a thought in our minds. And I'm trying to convince myself why we should keep this building. Because for me, the economics just don't make any sense. We can sit here and continuously talk about how great it's going to be to have community centers, how great it's going to be to bring back WWE wrestling to the building. Like, we can sit here and talk about all the great things that the building can do. But how can we afford to pay for it? Nobody has given me any concrete answers on how they're going to do it. Nobody on this council is going to be able to say, we're going to commit $1 million for the next 10 years in any kind of a cost analysis on what we're going to do with this. So would I love a building for our veterans? Of course. This city council has been on record for years supporting our veterans with the building that they have across from the park. We have spent millions of dollars on those buildings. Do they need something more? Of course they do. Do we need a bigger community center? Absolutely. We need a lot of things, right? We need more people in the clerk's office. We need more people in traffic. We need more people in parks. We want all these great things, but how are we going to pay for it? And I personally don't think putting housing here is the best alternative either. I don't believe that we're going to make this a housing unit where they're going to get a TIF and collect income and rent for the minute it's occupied, and then they don't have to pay taxes. I think that's wrong too. So, like, I don't think the concept is fair. I don't think it's equitable, and there's only been one buyer on this right now. So, the decision that my vote on this is going to be. I want to actually probably make a motion. I'm just thinking this on the fly because I wasn't prepared to talk about this tonight. I want to, if I can, reject the current RFP and urge the administration to go back out for another RFP to see if there's other potential buyers and uses, because this council and the prior council did a heck of a job bringing this to light, and the community all came and spoke about it. I just don't think housing is the ideal thing here. I think a community event is great, but I don't think the city should own it. So maybe I'm having my cake and eating it too here, I don't know, but I just don't think it makes logical economic sense for us to move forward with this, leaving it here and doing what we're planning to do. It just doesn't, to me, doesn't make sense. So I don't know if I can, but I'll make a motion to reject the current RFP that is before the city council and urge the administration to put another RFP out to see if there's additional uses or buyers for the property, and urge the administration, if they can, to select, put an RFP out for a real estate broker or brokerages to see if they could work to liquidate the property and get a better return. That's in the form of a motion.
Mr. President, do you yield?
I do, and that's a form of a
Let me-
motion, Mr.
let's-
There's
President.
a motion on the floor.
There's no motion on the floor right now. Just
I thought
listed
there
from-
was a
listed
motion
from
on
the
the floor
table.
made by Counselor,
I made a motion to move the sale, which wasn't seconded.
I
believe.
seconded it.
To move, to sell the property?
Yeah, I made a motion, we're gonna vote on it.
Through the president, Madam Clerk?
Yeah,
Could you clarify?
we can vote
Or
on
you want
it.
to get this right? So-
There's a motion to waive the rules. The motion to sell was prior to postponing debate
Right.
until now.
So there was a
there
motion
was
on
no
the floor.
No.
Was that by Counselor Dion?
That was
Listed
a
from the
motion
table,
to lift
Council,
from the
yeah.
table. We'll get
So,
the clarification.
what was the last question that we had? Was a motion to approve the sale, correct? Was that what was lifted from the table?
It was lifted from the table at the beginning of the meeting.
Right.
There was a motion to vote to sell the property.
Okay, motion to
But
vote,
then there was a motion to postpone
Yes.
all debate until after item number 18, which
correct.
is where we're at
So I'll
now.
make a motion to sell the property. There's a second, and we'll have a roll call
Second.
vote.
We already have a motion, and I'm waiting to see if this one gets a second.
The only motion is to waive the-
There'd be no second
The
and no
motion to sell the
motion.
property
this
came
current
prior,
motion.
Mr. President. I don't know if it's
It did.
appropriate to deal with that motion or this motion. I don't know that question.
The motion that Council Party made did not get a second.
Okay,
Okay,
so let's go.
Is there another motion?
I second.
Well, on,
I-
wait,
I-
before you make another motion, there are two other individuals that would like to speak on this. Council seat one, Council Kadim, you had your hand up, and Council Hart is gonna speak afterwards.
Thank you. I know the argument is that we can't afford the expenses to run the building. Do we have a number? I have never received that number, so I know we're saying that we can't afford it. So if we're gonna go on that argument that we can't afford to operate the building, then please tell me what it is, because I don't know what the number is. What I will tell you is that I'm looking at the FY '24 budget, and under facilities and maintenances for buildings and grounds, electricity for, I'm assuming for all the buildings, at least government center and at least DPW, since it's under there, is $250,000 for electric. There is no way that electric for Bank Street Armory is gonna be close to 250,000, right? So, okay, that's that. Heat, natural gas, 145,000. Are we saying that we're 145,000 for the Bank Street Armory? I would say no. So even if we did that, we're talking about, $400,000 for two large buildings that are operated essentially 24/7 versus the Bank Street Armory. I don't know. If we're going on that saying that we can't afford to heat and electric on a building, it's gonna cost us $10 million to repair it, and it's simple maintenance at that point, right? So if you're budgeting capital items, you're budgeting preventative maintenance, it's not that expensive moving forward. We don't pay taxes, not quite sure where that argument is coming in from. So it's not, I'm sure it's not insignificant, but it's not a significant dollar amount. We're not talking about millions of dollars to operate a Bank Street Armory. So I think that's gotta be right off the table. Like, if that's what we're afraid to take a vote on, is because it's gonna be too expensive to move forward, to maintain it. I mean, property insurance is what it is. Like, it's not that significant.
Point of information, I could be incorrect, but I believe there's a notation somewhere that I saw that referenced the armory being included in the facilities budget.
We can get that information.
Yeah, I'm not, all I know is that, let's just call it, even if we call it $100,000 a year, is that what we're calling significant expenses to operate a building of that size in a $300 million budget? That argument to me should be thrown out the window. I just don't understand that. I just want to throw that out there. Outside of that, my stance and support on this project itself, as it currently stands, remains the same. I think there is, maybe there's not grants available currently, but I think we need to have a real conversation as to what's the vision and what's the plan for that building. So, and if we're committed to that, then we can find ways to be able to fund that. That's just, we need to want to support that vision, right? That's all it is. It's about a vision and executing the vision. That's my stance on that. So with that, I yield.
There you go, and it's not gonna happen overnight,
Right.
just as the apartments won't happen overnight either. Council seat three, Council Hart?
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe Councilor Ponte asked Mr. Aiken about the expenses of how much that building would cost to renovate. He said 15 million, and then expenses after that to maintain the building. We don't have it. The city does not have the finances to do this. I think this has become a very highly emotional issue. For me, it is. It is definitely an emotional issue for me. I've been in and out of that armory for years, going, watching basketball, playing there, going to events there. It had its day. It had its moment. It's just, we cannot afford it. The city cannot afford it right now. And I am in agreement with Mr. Kilby to have Mr. Maycomber buy the property and at least conserve the, you know, the beauty of the building and keep the deed restrictions in place. So I'm ready to vote for it tonight, ready to sell it, and I yield.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor C1, Counselor Kadim.
Thank you. My colleague in C2 did point out, so the note is right at the beginning of the facilities and maintenance that it includes electric and heat for the building, so it's already budgeted. So if we're gonna sit here and we're gonna say that we can't afford it, okay, so here's the situation. We're gonna have a conversation about financial positions that are gonna be $100,000, right? So let's be consistent across the board and say that we can't afford it, okay? Let's stop saying that we can afford this, we can afford that, we can afford this, but we can't afford when it's convenient because we don't want to do something, right? Again, it comes back to what our priorities. The position that's coming before us is $100,000. Can we afford $100,000?
Yes.
We can? I'm sorry, I just heard that we can't afford this building. Right? So, again, it comes back down to priorities. So stop telling about the affordability. It's about a vision and whether or not we want to do it and where the priorities. Now, if you tell us that the Bank Street, if the argument is that the Bank Street Armory is not a priority, I will accept that. Okay, because that may be a legitimate opinion from the administration that the Bank Street Armory is not a priority. I can live with that. To say that we can't afford it and that we've got all these other requests coming in that require additional increases to the budget. And we talk about $100,000 for this finance position. There's going to be increases down the road, right? 3% COLA adjustments. Okay, there's going to be pension associated with it. There's potential health care. So add another $15,000 on top of the $100,000 year over year over year, right? So the affordability piece needs to just kind of go out the window. It comes back to a priority. You can, listen, Councilman C3 can shake his head. He can. But all we're saying is that we can't afford the maintenance. When you renovate a house, right, and then you go in and it's basic maintenance, it's basic maintenance, it's upkeep. It's not significant in terms of budgets. So I'm going to tell you that it's going to be less than $100,000 to heat and make sure that the electric, and actually it's already in the budget, so it's even less than that. Maybe it goes up a little bit because you have a little bit more heat to make sure that it's maintained. There's electric in there. I walked through it. We're paying for it, so we're paying for it now. So the argument, let's just be consistent with what the argument is. With that, I yield.
Point of order.
Thank you. Hold on, Counselor. Counselor C8, Counselor Sampson.
So I want to revert the attention back to this letter that we have today that we're going to take a vote on. We don't even know, and the administration didn't know, and no fault of his own, he didn't know this letter came, but that if this property, the requirements for the residential conversion it's not in compliance with the deed restrictions, the preservation deed restrictions on this. So I hesitate to take a vote on that tonight if we don't even have a legal opinion if we can even sell that for residential or not. So that's my first statement, and I don't know if anybody knows anything about that or have seen that in the letter, but that's a concern for me. And the second, I think, to my counselor in seat one, has always been on the standpoint of not really wanting to sell this building, but the administration has taken a stance. I don't think the administration has taken any other stance, but they're not invested in keeping this property. Their priorities are elsewhere. And so by not selling the property, on the other hand, their priority is not to maintain the property. So then do we, is it going to sit there because it's not? There's so many. But then we go on the argument that you stated, can we not afford? We can't afford it. Well, we like Oprah Winfrey. You get a building and you get a job and everybody gets what they want. We don't have the money for that in the city. I mean, we got Diamond coming on board. Like we're not going to be able to afford everything. So something has to give. But I am really concerned after reading this letter tonight from the Historical Commission that they're saying that the use of the property for residential conversion is against the deed restriction. And I'm not comfortable because we don't have a legal opinion, and that just came right before me. So, for forced to vote on that tonight, I don't want to vote on something illegal. So with that, I yield.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor C3, Counselor Hart.
No, I did not. I didn't read that.
Counselor C4, Counselor Kilby.
Yes, I mean, I'm ready to vote on this. I mean, I don't like to make predictions that are negative, but I'm convinced that a next administration is gonna deal with this. The present administration, Councilor Kadim always mentions, with all due respect, that we have our role. We're not 9 mayors here, okay? There, it's clear, it's very, very clear that this administration has no plans to invest, I'm hearing $15 million. That $10 million is already 5 years old. There is no commitment on a part of this administration to do anything with that building. I'm trying to be really practical here. So it's gonna take a new administration who has a commitment to be able to do something with that building and keep it. I don't like making negative predictions, but I'm gonna drive by there in about 2 years, and I'm gonna see a same dilapidated, even worse, a building. So that's, you know, Council Kadim, I mean, he says it all the time. I don't cross lanes. We've gotta know our role. And our role is to make these tough decisions, and the administration does not want to perform a rehab and a reuse of the building. That's it. So I've been talking about this issue for months and months and months now. I just have a firm belief that the right thing to do is to sell this building tonight. I really, really do. So with all the needs we have, the nice 9 C cuts that we hear are potentially happening, you know, reliance on one-time money and, you know, upkeep of the building, Council Kadim saying $100,000, I'm hearing from the administration $500,000. I mean, yeah, if my wife and I are looking at a new home, and she says, "Oh, I don't want to buy it, Brad. I'm not gonna buy it. I'm not gonna buy the home." We're not gonna buy it. We're not gonna rehab it. That's a fact, and it's just gonna. And we, you know, I disagree on the shape of the building as well. It's deplorable. It's sad to see. It's really, really sad to see, and. You know, I hope if, I'll be the first one to say, if this vote does not go through to sell a building, and I've said it many, many times, Council Camaro, President Camaro will be done in a minute.
It's okay, take your time, Councilman.
I'll
No one's
be
in a
right
rush.
there. I'll be the first one with you guys to push the administration to do something with it.
Okay.
But I don't know. We'll see. It's not our decision. I yield. Thank you.
I agree, Council. Our decision is to take the vote
And it's
tonight.
gonna take the next
To Council
administration.
Kadim's point, the point that he's trying to make is that this administration has no interest in
Right.
continuing to move forward with that building.
I've said my piece.
I get it. I'm just saying.
I yield. Thanks.
Can we move the question?
Council at seat 6, as a quick follow-up, Council
Yeah,
Conti?
just my only thing is, I don't agree with what the current plan or what the exit strategy of the use of this building is right now. That is my opinion. I think the building should be either sold or repurposed, but I do not think housing is the ideal scenario for it. That's my opinion, based on the information that I have available to me today. I'll vote accordingly. We can call the question. I just don't have, we're all talking in hyperbole. Nobody knows nothing. That's the reality. We know that the building's budgeted for $100,000 in electric and all this other stuff. We got a crew over here that's sitting here saying, oh, well, maybe it's 15, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 8. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. I haven't seen anything. It's not in this packet that I just received for the very first time today. Does anybody else here have any idea how much it's gonna cost?
All depends on who you talk to.
Just like this appraisal that says this is worth 0. I mean, it's like, it's a subjective opinion, and I don't agree with the use. I'm not gonna support this based on the fact that I don't agree with the current intended use of what the exit strategy here is to make 36 apartments.
Move the question.
So I yield. Thank you.
Okay, let's just
One
refresh and bring everybody back to where we were before. Madam Clerk, would you just tell everyone what they're voting on, what the motion is and what was seconded? I believe it's to sell the building to,
Correct. Sell the building.
Okay,
Is
so
that
that
the-
would,
is the motion
so
and
we
there
would
was a
be
second?
adopting the order authorizing the mayor to execute a purchase and sales agreement for the sale of the Bank Street Armory at 72 Bank Street.
Requires 2/3 vote.
I'm sorry.
2/3 vote?
yes,
Roll call.
roll call.
On the motion to adopt the order, Councilors Kadim,
No.
Dion,
No.
Hart,
Yes.
Kilby,
Yes.
Pereira,
No.
Ponte,
No.
Reposo,
No.
Sampson,
Yes.
President Kamara.
No.
Motion fails.
Madam Clerk?
The next matter before you is a communication from the mayor and licensing board considering the adoption of new fees relative to the Farmer Brewer Distillery pouring permits.
Motion to refer to committee ordinance?
Motion for the Committee on Ordinance and Legislation has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Committee on Ordinances and Legislation at a meeting held on January 22nd voted unanimously to recommend the accompanying proposed ordinance accompanied by an emergency preamble be passed through first reading, second reading, passed to be enrolled, and passed to be ordained.
Motion to adopt emergency preamble?
Second.
Motion to adopt emergency preamble has been made and seconded. On emergency preamble, roll call.
On adoption of the preamble, Councilors Kadim,
Yes.
Dion,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Kilby,
Yes.
Pereira,
Yes.
Ponte,
Yes.
Reposo.
Yes.
Sampson,
Yes.
President Kamara.
Yes.
Motion to
So
pass
motion
all
passed
readings?
through all readings has been
Second.
made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The Committee on Ordinances and Legislation at a meeting held on January 22nd voted unanimously to recommend the accompanying proposed ordinance be passed through first reading. This is a miscellaneous traffic ordinance.
Motion to pass through first reading?
Second.
Motion to pass through first reading has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The Committee on Ordinances and Legislation at a meeting held on January 22nd voted unanimously to recommend the accompanying proposed ordinance be passed through first reading. This is all-night parking of commercial vehicles.
Motion to pass through first reading?
Motion
Second.
passed through first reading has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Committee on Ordinances and Legislation at a meeting held on January 22nd voted unanimously to recommend that the accompanying proposed ordinance be passed through first reading. This is prohibited parking due to impeding emergency vehicles.
Motion to pass through first reading?
Seconded.
Motion passed through first reading has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Committee on Ordinances and Legislation at a meeting held on January 22nd voted unanimously to recommend that the accompanying proposed ordinance be passed through first reading. These are amendments to the salary schedules for EMS Local 1202 AFSCME personnel.
Motion to pass through first reading?
Motion
Second.
passed through first reading has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The Committee on Ordinances and Legislation at a meeting held on January 22nd voted unanimously to recommend that the accompanying proposed ordinance be passed through first reading. These are amendments to the salary schedules for contract personnel in EMS and the Law Department.
Motion to pass through first reading?
Motion to pass through
Second.
first
Second.
reading has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The Committee on Ordinances and Legislation at a meeting held on January 22nd voted unanimously to recommend that the accompanying proposed ordinance be passed through first reading. These are panhandling restrictions.
Motion to pass through first reading?
Second.
Motion to pass through first reading has been made and seconded. On the motion, Council seat 6, Council Ponte, you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. President. I don't really, I mean, I respect what the administration's trying to do here, but this doesn't even really, I don't even understand what this means. Can somebody help me understand?
I think I can try to clarify, and overall, I think the difference with this is that there's a difference between someone with a sign asking for a donation, and there's a difference with someone with a sign approaching someone that's more intimidating to say, give me a donation or give me
Point of
monetary.
clarification, may I?
Sure, Council
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, this, the constitutionality was researched by Corporation Counsel, and they're trying to obviously make some type of ordinance that will, stand muster, I guess the term is. So it's based on public safety. It's based on, conduct on the part of the panhandler that is a nuisance, that breaks laws, so it's an attempt, but it's definitely a difficult issue that everyone's battling.
So I guess my question is, we created our own version of the definition of the word panhandling in this resolution. Is what we did. and then which doesn't even make sense. And then the second thing is, we are now going to authorize our police officers to go then issue citations after, when the sun sets, what is it, from sunset to sunrise or sunrise to sunset? After that, they can't approach. This doesn't make any sense to me
The
at
whole
all.
thing doesn't make sense, Counselor.
Yeah, this is like,
Panhandling makes sense.
I understand that we're trying to have a safety, and I applaud the administration for one point. They're trying to make sure that the residents who are sitting in their cars at red lights feel safe.
Correct.
But do we have the police manpower that we're gonna sit in front of a median all day long, and we're gonna be giving $50 fines to people who are panhandling? Like, do we have that manpower? Do we have that ability to do it? Are we gonna do an ordinance here that we're gonna pass that may or may not be enforced? We're gonna enforce it temporarily? It's just like, I understand, I think this needs a little bit more work, if I'm being completely honest with you, with the ordinance committee than what is before us, but like the definition of panhandling isn't even consistent with what the actual definition of panhandling is. So, I just I don't understand. So maybe the chair or somebody who was at the meeting yesterday, I didn't get this part, can explain to me what this is. I yield, thank you.
There you go. Counselor C3, Counselor Hart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I'm in the ordinance committee, and that particular piece, Mr. Ponte, was something that I questioned, that it had no bite to it as far as the our police officers enforcing it. So that's pretty much the only problem I had with the ordinance, but everything else I agree with. But it is what it is. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to support it, but I am going to more than likely obviously talk to the chief and see if there's going to be any opportunity to, put some bite to it. And, I know you're smiling and laughing.
Yeah, it
but,
just doesn't make sense.
Well, I said it didn't make sense either, so I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor C6, Counselor Vice President Pereira.
Just to clarify a little bit, I did talk to the chief today on another matter, and he asked how this went in ordinance, and I told him, I wish that it was a little bit stronger, but because of the constitutionality of it, this is what it could be. And he has plans to do something about this with the police department right off the get-go. He was interested. He says, well, it's a start for us to be able to have. So I think you're going to see action from the police department on this issue. I mean, my concern is that some of the panhandles are on busy streets. I'm so afraid that they walk in the middle of the street. I'm so afraid that someday somebody's going to get hit by a car. And, I mean, we can't tell people not to stand in that particular place, but at least we can say you can't approach a car. So it's not like, maybe they'll do some stings around that and let people know they can't do this, or people who are coming and then they see them driving to Tiverton to a single-family home, and they're holding a sign saying homeless, and they're lying, that they can do something about it. Right now, they can't do anything about it. So it's a start. Unless you want to do like other places have done and put bricks and stuff all over the place, and which
you,
I don't
Counselor?
think was right either, but
Do you,
with
Counselor?
that, I yield.
Thank you. Counselor C8, Counselor Sampson.
So I was there at the committee last night, and I don't agree that it doesn't have bite to it. I think that it does. The police chief had said that they can enforce it. I think that there's a clear difference. So when you go to New York City and there are people sitting on the ground and, change in the cup or whatever, that would be legal in this ordinance. What you can't do and get a misdemeanor charge is go up to cars and approach someone, and there's the very much difference. Like, if you go in a Mass and Cass and they're trying to put roses on your car and ask for money or wash your windshield, you can't do that. If you take a look at, and anybody can do it in your mind, of different sections in the city where you have more different people that are more vigorous in their panhandling and asking for things, maybe more sick with their mental illness, it becomes dangerous. They're sick within their addiction, they're falling over sometimes, they're sick within their mental illness, they're knocking on car windows, and then you have some sections where the people are pleasant and they're holding a sign, but I think this is a start in the right direction. If you make it too rigid and too strict, it'll never pass in the Constitution of it. It is what it needs to be to start. We can start a movement. I think a lot of communities are having this issue. Fall River definitely has an issue and an ongoing issue. And so we make it more tight and more strict. It's never going to pass, and it will never hold up in court. So we know that this is what's going to work. And so that's the difference. So you can sit down and hold a sign and not approach a car and you're safe and the person is safer, or, but you will not be able to approach a car and almost fall in front of that car or scare someone in their car. So there's your difference. I yield.
Thank you,
Council
Councilor.
President, thank you.
Anyone else?
Really quick.
Council seat
It's
four,
a
Council
work,
Capian.
laws are a work in progress, so we've come a long way for putting jagged rocks on medians. I mean, that we cannot do. I yield, thank
Thank
you.
you, Councilor. I just want to point one thing out. A long time ago, when I was a first newly councilor, Chief McDonald was here, and someone had asked him if he had the manpower to take on this new thing that we were doing. And he says, I don't have the manpower to stop speeding throughout the city, to stop the red light violations, to stop the stop sign violations, but there are laws that we catch them as they come along, and we do our best. So they'll probably never have the manpower to do anything we ask them to do. But they follow the laws and catch them and try to do their best. That was coming from Chief McDonald a long, long time ago, and I'll never forget it. Council C1, Council Kadim?
I appreciate that, but at the end of the day, we hear concerns about panhandling, and I think when we pass an ordinance like this, we give a false sense of hope to our community that we're gonna address panhandling. We did not address panhandling with this ordinance, like, not even close. It's, panhandling, it's not just about people coming to the cars, it's where they're standing, it's the fact that they're standing there. It's all of it, and a couple of people are gonna get arrested for the first week, 2 weeks, months, whatever the case may be. We know how things go. The police are gonna get tired of enforcing this, right? It's gonna be like other ordinances that are going forward with this. And at the end of the day, that you're gonna have these folks that are panhandling who are gonna realize that, okay, so I can still continue to do what I need to do as long as I don't approach a car. If I don't approach a car and I stay on the corner and I still stare at you and I swear at you while you're on the side of me at the red light, it's the same exact thing, but they never approach the vehicle, right? So it doesn't necessarily change, because I've driven by panhandlers quite a bit, and I don't know how many, I could probably count only once that one of them has actually approached my vehicle. They're just walking up and down. I mean, you got a path on the sidewalk where they just walk back and forth, and some of them look at you, some of them swear at you. It's not gonna address those issues, right? And then we're
Point of
saying you can do
information.
it, sunrise to sunset. It's just, I just wanna make sure that we're clear that it's not really addressing what the issue is, and there are gonna be folks that are gonna call on us and saying, well, what about the ordinance? And it's just not addressing the real issue. I think we need to be a little bit more creative, and I said this before, I think we need to look at an ordinance that prohibits vehicles from handing out money while operating a motor vehicle. Right, you and I have had this conversation, the only way to get rid of the panhandlers is eliminate the transaction of money. And the only way to do that is say, okay, that's fine, in the city of Fall River, if you're operating a motor vehicle, you cannot, have hand out cash while operating a vehicle, because that's dangerous. And then, from my standpoint, I think that addresses it. We're not dealing with panhandling, there's no ACLU issue. This is a motorist issue, and we go from there. And I don't know if that's legal, but I'd rather try that and have somebody go to court and say that we've given them a violation for operating a motor vehicle and giving out monetary, dollar bills or whatever the case may be. So that's just, distracted driving. So that's just my take. I mean, I'll support it, because it's something, but I don't know that it really addresses the real issue at heart. So with that, I yield.
Council, just curious, I watched the meeting. Did that come up in the discussion in the meeting yesterday or not?
No, listen, I've said this.
I know. I'm just curious
a
if it
million
came up.
times.
Maybe I
It's just,
missed it.
I don't know. Everybody seemed excited about the ordinance. I just, I didn't get it.
I was just curious, 'cause maybe
I was
the
the only
public-
one that was confused by it.
maybe
I
the
was like, I don't
public
know.
could've chimed in
I'm
on
not
it.
excited about this at all.
Council seat 8, Council Sampson.
Oh, I just wanted to have maybe a point of information. It did address no swearing in that ordinance, and you couldn't be swearing and harassing. I think it was section H in the panhandling ordinance, you couldn't swear at passerby, harass them.
Okay.
You yield, Councilor?
I yield.
Thank you. So the motion is to pass through first reading, and it was seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Committee on Ordinances and Legislation at a meeting held on January 22nd voted 5 yeas to recommend that the accompanying proposed ordinance be passed through first reading as amended, contingent upon the receipt of a 10-year strategic staffing plan for the finance
Got the
departments.
10-year.
This is the position of Finance Analysis and Compliance Manager.
Motion to pass through first reading?
Second?
Motion to pass through first reading has been made and seconded. On the motion, Counsel Seday, Counsel Sampson.
So I thought about this long and hard last night, and I do appreciate the structure that they gave us and the org chart of present, what they're proposing, and then a wish list. And I definitely appreciate the city administrator's definition of what he is proposing for the purchasing agent. I do have a question for him, so can we waive the rules? Can we, I can
Make the motion, waive the rules.
make a motion to waive the rules.
Is there a second? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Come on down. Sure, you can bring the team down. Sure, absolutely. Motion wasn't specific to you. She just wants her answers. Counsel Seday, Counsel Sampson, you still have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. Mr. Akins, I think that your definition and what you're proposing for the purchasing agent is brilliant. I actually, what you just explained makes a lot of sense. It's safe. I think it checks a lot of boxes that needs to happen that probably has not been happening. It just makes sense to do that. With that being said, would you still be able to do that if we didn't create another position? If we don't agree on creating this position tonight, or maybe they do, I don't know, but let's just say they don't, would you still be able to move forward with your plan of your purchasing, your very brilliant purchasing agent idea?
So, first of all, I've been called a lot of things since I came to the city.
Brilliant, it's a brilliant idea.
First time I got brilliant. I'm just gonna put this one in my pocket, so thank you. That was incredibly kind.
That might change before you leave the table.
No, I have no doubt, like, I'm counting on it. That said, I do think that, so just to make it clear to everyone what we're talking about, is we're talking about taking the purchasing agent position out of a high-level department head and moving that down to more of a clerical, and also training people within the different departments, including the schools. That would be up to them. They would do their own purchasing. We would have purchasing within DCM, purchasing within parks and facilities and water, people trained to be MC PPO certified, which is the purchasing agent procurement certification, to be able to do that grassroots and then have it filter up so that there's levels of oversight. Because the prior purchasing agent, I think, had a Herculean task in front of her to try to do that, just didn't have enough trained people to support her work. So we're trying to really do this right. That said, for us to do that, I really do believe the ideal situation is to have that person supervised by a high-level finance person. But if you did not approve the position, we could probably make it work. I just don't, I think it would create a significant burden on CFO Almond. I think it would create a significant burden on the other folks down below who are training or trained, because what you want is levels of oversight to make sure that this stuff is absolutely locked in, because it's essential.
Okay, so I say that because CFO Almond last night said herself that these were two separate issues, and she wanted to take the conversation of purchasing agent out of the equation. So I'm looking at them as two separate issues. So I think that's brilliant. I think it's a great idea. And knowing that it still can be done, because I think that's very important and vital for the city, that remains continuing down that progress. I do feel with the creating of this position, it's not sitting right with me for a number of reasons. I do understand, Ms. Almond, that you were saying that you need help in that department, that you were, I think that was the first words out of your mouth, that you agreed with Mrs. Dion, Counselor Dion, that you needed help, and we agree that, I agree, you need help in that department. But does that justify creating another position? If every department comes down here and says, we need help, I'm drowning, I need another position, that's a problem when you have positions in that budget that you're not going to fill. Now, and let me mind you, when I came down to this council maybe 20 months ago, I was told that Ed Icapone, who was up in that office, the grand hoo-ha wizard, the man behind the curtains, the end-all be-all. He's a brilliant man too, okay, not to take your shine, but that he would only be up there for a short amount of time. He is just temporarily. He's gonna be up there very short amount of time. He's not gonna be here long. And we sit 20 months later, and he's still up there, and although we're being told that he doesn't want to be there, I don't believe that, because he wouldn't be there if he didn't want to be there, but he's doing his job, he does a great job, but he's training, so he's still up there. So on top of that, we still have that consultant, we still have these 2 other jobs in the budget that we're not taking out, and so I've got to believe that we're not going to be asked in a year to fill those other positions that are not taken out, because you're saying, your office is saying that we're not gonna fill them right now. And we gotta believe that. Just like 20 months ago, I had to believe that we weren't gonna continue to pay a consultant long-term, that we're still paying a consultant long-term up in that office. And so I can't say that in a year from now, we're not gonna be asked to say, well, we need help up there. It's a lot of work. It's an emergency situation. We have to fill those things. We have a great candidate for it. We have to fill it. If we don't fill it, it's a dire need. And that's, I feel that myself and I am one person, that I am under the gun to vote for a position that's an emergency, but it's been an emergency. I think there's, in that department, and I feel there hasn't been a complete transparency of the process thus far. And so I feel it is my responsibility to just look at the facts and say, I can't trust that they're not gonna come down and in a year ask to fill those positions, and, that's not gonna be passed, and then the taxpayers are gonna have to go ahead and fill those positions that said they weren't gonna be filled. So with those problems and there's more, but these are the ones that I'm willing to discuss here, that I can't justify supporting this position. I do by 100% back what you're doing with the purchasing. I think that's great, but creating another position, when leaving these other positions, they're an ordinance and not removing them because, it's just too much of a task to bring them on board later on if we want them. It just doesn't sit right with me, and I can't support that. So with all due respect to your finance department and the work that you have undertaken, I can't support this vote. With that, I yield.
Can I respond to that briefly?
You can.
And I appreciate your concerns. And I think that, in the best moments, the city council is really the watchdog, right? To make sure that the residents' money is being spent in the most responsible way possible. And I appreciate that. And I hear exactly what you're saying. I think one of the things that's really important to note about this position is that it reflects the changing way in which some departments have to be working, right? I think you could certainly voice the concern that, oh my gosh, you could go down every department and decide, we need another position, we need another position. But those departments aren't changing in the same way. Finance is changing dramatically. And not just that, the ability to get well-trained, experienced people in finance is incredibly difficult. And the money that people are paying to get these people is incredible. So what we're actually looking at here is by not filling the purchasing position in the way that it's been filled, and by not funding it, and by home-growing clerks and other people with the training, and by only using some small additional amount of money, by having an auditor who is budgeted for much more than he's being paid because he's inexperienced. He is fantastic, but inexperienced, all right, and learning, growing every day, and by taking the assistant auditor position out, not funding that, there's $175,000 in salary that isn't being used.
Yeah.
Not to say we need to go, let's use it, this is not a spending spree, right?
Yeah.
But this is the result of really hard, thoughtful work by the CFO, who frankly is doing some amazing things. I just got to take a moment and say that.
Yeah.
When you look at some of the turnbacks that have happened under her management of departments and oversight and constant meetings with departments about spending and about overtime and about all the different things that can very easily go unchecked if they are not watched very closely, and she does it. And if you look at the way the city's bond rating is looking and the way they're talking about it, like there are improvements here that have literally never happened or that we haven't seen in 30 years, okay? There is remarkable work being done. I think in order for her to be able to respond to the needs of the mayor, my needs, when I say, hey, I need some information about this, or the needs of this council, and can you look into this? What do we know about? That kind of research there's no capacity for it right now. right? Everything else is management and training. And this person would allow us to do that, and it doesn't increase FTEs. This department is down 6 FTEs since 2015. So they're already smaller than they've ever been. We're talking about the assistant auditor as really not a necessary position for the personnel that we have and the work that we're doing. But this assessor, this analyst being a necessary position for the future, and to really get us through times that I think are gonna require, and I think the term was used, most recently by, Councilor Pelletier, we gotta sharpen our pencils. This is the person who's gonna wield the sharp pencil. And I would ask you respectfully to reconsider. I absolutely understand your position, I respect it, I
Yeah.
appreciate it, but this is really important.
So can I respond? I'm gonna respond to you because you
Thank you.
responded to me. I was gonna shut
Thank
up,
you.
but I'll respond again. So, you know, I respect that, what you're saying, Ms. Almond. I'm sure you're doing a great job up there. But there is some problems that continue to happen down here, so, not getting documents, and it's always like, you know, we have a young staff, we have a, you know, whatever it is. And now we're gonna hire a new person, and train them, but to go on what you said, we're looking at trends of like, so I did my due diligence last night, because I was up thinking like, why is this a big sticking point for me? And it really is. It's not personal, it's a sticking point, and I feel like there has not been full transparency here. And, you know, New Bedford is not its organizational chart does not mimic Fall River's new, what they're trying to do, organizational chart, right? It doesn't. Now, they did create a new position there, which, in this year, in their new budget, is the, assistant to the chief financial officer. So they did create that. It wasn't there before. It is there now. Not quite this, but so everybody's not continuing with these trends. Everyone's got different trends that they're trying to do. I'm just saying, I'm not responsible for New Bedford or what Worcester looks like or what anywhere else looks like. I'm responsible for my responsibility for our Fall River residents. And I don't feel comfortable with saying, hey, listen, trust me. They're not coming back to us next year to fill that position. I just don't feel it. And to say, let me tell you something, I'm just gonna go with what you're saying. It's really, really tough to fill these positions. Well, it sounds like to me, you fill this position without even doing an RFP, without even, the job's not even there. The job's not even posted. And you've got someone you want in that seat. So the argument that it's really, really hard to fill does not stick right with me when you already got someone to put in that seat when you haven't even posted the job. So I'm gonna stop talking. I respect what you're doing up there, but that's just my opinion. And I guess good news for you is I'm just one person. So with that, I yield, Councilor.
Thank you, Council. Council C2, Council Dion. Just want to point out, when the dividers went down because they moved the table, I think the dividers are going to come back up.
No.
What'd he say?
I like them up.
What did you say? I didn't
I
hear.
said the dividers came down when they moved the table, but I think we're going to put the dividers back up. Council C2.
I feel like we just got yelled at by
There we go.
I think so too. All right, that's a tough act to follow, let me tell you. Okay,
Sorry.
on page 1, you have assistant treasurer. Page 2, assistant treasurer. And then when we get to page 3, it's deputy treasurer. What's the difference?
Schedules.
So on the third page of like the wish list?
Correct.
Yeah. So that would be splitting, going back to a city collector and a city treasurer, and then you'd have either a deputy or an assistant treasurer. Just a more formal name has been using deputy.
Okay. I missed part of the funding source for this position. I know the money from the assistant auditor is part of it. Money from the purchasing is part of it, but not in its entirety.
Correct.
And also there's funds in the auditor position. So we went out looking we were actively looking for a city auditor. And that was when we did discuss, if we did get a city auditor with significant experience, then we would have even, Mr. Iacopone would not have been coming in. We have not been able to do that. We've been actively looking for that position since they were looking for that shortly before I started, when the city auditor resigned. So the funding for this would be the funds that are budgeted under city auditor, the funds that are budgeted the difference of funds for the city, between the city auditor and what we have now promoted the city auditor to, the assistant city auditor and the purchasing. So I'm not asking to increase the FTEs. I want to exchange out a position that I feel is needed. Again, we were already, we didn't go out, identify somebody and then write this. What we did is I had already written this, was already talking to administration about this position. We had a particular candidate applied for the city auditor position. And discussing that we identified that this candidate would be great for this position. So we didn't go out looking for somebody we didn't go out, find somebody and then build a description for them. I just want to get that very clear. Again, we're looking to I'm not looking to increase the budget to pay for this. I'm looking at saying, as I've identified the needs over the last, almost 2 years, this is what we need. And with the staffing that we have, and we want to elevate so we can provide better information. And right now, it's very difficult.
So, in terms of your expectations, as their role, what would they review, what would they track that will put that fine point on the pencil?
So,
Because to me, it sounds more like an assistant CFO position than what I hear sometimes when you explain it.
so I don't agree. So I just kind of want to get on the table here that all of my department heads below me, we really assist each other. So we work collaboratively. This position would work collaboratively, but at your point, when we go to do this budget, there's only so much capacity. I want to dive deeper into the budget. I want to dive deeper into each department. So that's my initial expectation. But we have a lot of things the city's facing that we need to research, and we need to look at, other ways of doing things and how much it's going to cost. And we've got trash, that's a significant expense that we have to take a really deep dive into. So, ad hoc research that the mayor or, the city administrator is like, can we look at it this way? Can we look at how we're doing and what's this gonna, and costing things out? Those are the things that we need to be doing. And in order to provide you better budgeting information, we need to be able to do that. And with the staff that I have, with the level of expertise, that's not where they're at this point. So again, I just want to reiterate that I'm not looking to budget or fill the assistant auditor.
Yeah, and I don't mean to interrupt you. I am, but I don't mean to.
It's all right.
It's on the page 2, it says eliminate assistant auditor position FY '24 budget, but it doesn't say anything about the '25 budget.
No, that's intended for 24 and 25, the second
Okay.
page.
Yeah, it didn't show there that it carried over to '25, so that was kind of a concern as well.
I apologize.
No, that's okay.
It's pretty quick, we had to put this together.
Right.
So.
Right. And I do agree with Counselor in seat 8 that, I'm not comfortable with the fact that we don't just completely eliminate positions, in accordance with this, because it's true, how many times it's happened in the past. So you always have that question in the back of your mind, you don't feel comfortable with it.
I think, if I may, Counselor, I think the reason not to eliminate the position is to eliminate it from ordinance creates several more steps. If we look at it several years from now and say, you know what, it's really the time now to do an assistant or to do some other thing, and to do something with that position. So if we don't fill the position and don't fund the position, it's not in the budget. We're not funding it, there's no money being put towards it. And if we were to do that, we would have to ask this council's permission to
But in essence, is that any different than what you're doing now? You want a position added to the budget, so we're voting on that. So if you took that position out, it's as simple as coming back and saying, well,
Sure. Fair
we
statement.
realized, it didn't work out the way we thought, or whatever the scenario, or it worked out great. We found out we could eliminate somebody else and bring this person in.
Absolutely fair. But I think the flip side of it is that there are departments throughout the city where, there's some positions that, that are budgeted and don't necessarily get filled, right? Police is a great example. There's always a few positions because there's retirements, there's guys coming on, but there's that few, those are positions that we are paying for. They may end up in a turnback at the end of the year, but that money's tied up. It's tied up for the year. So
Right, last year, the last budget, we had 2.6 million in unfunded vacancies.
Right.
To me, I say, take some of those vacancies out, lower your expenses, and then you come closer to meeting your revenues and having a balanced budget.
But to your
Just
point,
me.
I actually think this position would help us look at that, right? So to have somebody that can really dive into our FTEs, how our work is allocated, and whether we're talking about police or whether we're talking about enough personnel in the parks, whether it's, do we have the right personnel in DPW versus the parks versus cemeteries and trees? Somebody with this level of expertise in this position would be able to look into that. Like another crazy example that I discovered today, because we find stuff out every day as we're looking for ways to create efficiencies. I learned that every signal light in the city gets its own, we get an individual electric bill for every signal light, right? So somebody has to enter those and pay those at, maybe $25 a month or whatever. Every street light in the city also has its own electric bill, and that's spread across 5 or 6 departments. When you actually consider the manpower that it takes to actually enter those in the munis and pay them, that's something that an analyst could look at and say, geez, how is this inefficiency reflecting on our manpower needs or our personnel needs? There are so many different things that have just been going on because that's the way we've always done them, that we're identifying, we're finding, we're trying to fix. To have a person that could really look at the fiscal impact of all those things we're looking at, including those unfunded, open extra positions that never get filled, that's really the purpose. And it could really, I think, yield significant benefit for the city if we have a person in a position to do that.
And with that, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Council C1, Council Kadim.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I fully support this creation of this position. And number one, I want to thank you for the flow chart. I think it's exactly what we were looking for. And as I mentioned during ordinance, I think it's helpful for the council to truly understand what the actual full picture is going to look like. Assuming that money was not an issue, where we would want to see our finance team get to. And not to say, and I said it yesterday, that, money not being an issue, I know money is an issue with us, but just trying to get in a perfect environment, what does the perfect finance team look like for the city of Fall River? And by having this, then we can really kind of hold you a little bit more accountable in terms of positions that you're requesting and things of that nature. And I know it's a very fluid situation when it comes to finance departments. Things do change, and we need to kind of pivot every once in a while, but at least we can kind of see where your organization, where you're trying to go with your organization. We kind of hold you accountable there. The reason I support this is because I think there is more and more communities going into that direction of trying to get some type of budget development and account analysis to really try to figure out how to be more efficient with the use of taxpayer money and leverage other monies that are required. And part of that is also the compliance that's associated with it. I would align this similar to the support that we gave to the police department with the crime analysts for the civilian position that we gave them. You have an individual who's going to the police department that's analyzing crime, giving the information back to the police department so that they can manage the crime as that is moving forward. And I believe because of that position, we will receive the $2.3 million grant in terms of that. So why wouldn't we do that for the finance department, which in my mind is probably one of the most important departments in the city of Fall River? And when we go back with the history of Fall River, the city has always struggled from a financial standpoint having a good financial team. So if we're in a situation, which I don't disagree, that we're saying that if we had the option to have a city auditor or a finance analyst and a compliance manager, I would also say that, to me, the best bang for the buck is going with the financial analyst and a compliance manager. And I think when you take a step further and you start looking at what the department looks like in terms of growth when you get there, the organizational flow chart, while I may disagree with some of the positions that are being added, I think maybe one position, I think overall it looks good. I think this is what we need to do to make sure that, number one, we are, again, being efficient with our money, but we're also not getting hit from free cash because we're not compliant on either grants or federal requirements, health insurance requirements. I mean, there's so much reporting that goes on at so many different levels. And that's not even to talk about, the lack of, one of the councilors just talked about our process for, selling our property, right, and trying to change the law. The finance team doesn't even have the opportunity to take a breath, right, to take a step back and say, hey, listen, we need to make some changes. Some of the changes is really trying to talk about, when we've seen some changes come down from the state in terms of being able to use the legal list for investments versus the prudent list for stabilization, for trust funds. I'd like to see that for stabilization accounts to give us a little bit more flexibility for investing our money. But that's been a long time coming, that without the advocacy of people within municipal government, especially the finance departments, would have never taken place. And that just happened in the FY24 budget with Governor Healy. So you can only imagine that when you have somebody that's dedicated to identifying things and trying to identify ways to save money, and then to be able to use that and turn that into an advocacy aspect of it, to be able to get to the state level and say, we need to take changes. The MMA is looking for people to join the Fiscal Policy Committee, and that's just to review all of, the legislation that's coming down and the changes with finances, right? You only get that with people that appreciate it and understand it and actually analyze this. So from my standpoint, to me, it's a no-brainer. It's, at this point, seems to be a cost neutral. You're saying that you want to be able to, instead of fill this position, use this position. It's a more cost benefit, and the cost benefit analysis from your standpoint, it's more beneficial to do it that way, and in the long term is going to be able to provide some additional support in compliance with items. I would just hope that, and the expectation from my standpoint is that we will then start to see more trash analysis, more ways when we start talking about water and sewer. How do we reduce, potentially the budgets? Because we talk about that with the user rates and things like that for the enterprise funds. I'd like to see a little bit more of that review and analysis being done as to giving us options as to different directions that we might be able to go. I know we talked about the trash. We got rid of the pay-as-you-throw, but obviously there's a significant cost with recycling and things of that nature. So that's going to be something that needs to be reviewed as well. So with that, I know I'm a little long-winded, but I just want to really get it across to my colleagues to truly understand why I'm in support of this, because I do think it's a benefit to the finance department. With that, I yield.
Thank you, Council. Council seat 6, Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I came in here pretty, not sure what I was going to do with this, and by the way, it's nice to finally meet you, Ms. Almond.
to meet you
I don't
as
think I've
well.
ever met you yet. I'm hearing from the administration that you're looking at this as from a standpoint of streamlining efficiencies. You're not, you keep saying, just for the record, you keep saying you're not adding FTEs.
We're not adding FTEs. I'm exchanging out 2 positions.
Okay, so it's semantics maybe, but you have the ability to add the FTE if you wanted to. You're adding a brand-new position, so you're essentially adding an FTE. You're just not filling 2 other positions, correct?
So
That's
I'm-
correct.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'm reducing the funding for two other positions.
Okay, and I can't seem to find it in our packet unless I missed it, which I could have. Is there a job description set aside for this yet?
Yes,
It is, and it was with the ordinance committee?
yes.
Last night? Okay. So pretty much you're saying that you're gonna be able to streamline efficiencies, you're gonna be able to be more effective, and you're gonna be able to provide more resources to not only the finance department, but all other department heads as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you somebody made a comment about that you're down, what, 8?
No.
6.
6 people from 7 years ago or something like that,
Yeah.
2015. So thank you very much. Of course, our colleague in seat 2 would have that. Thank you. Putting that aside, I lost my train of thought. I am so sorry.
The 6 positions since 2015.
Okay, thank you. So how many people did you have when you started within your department, and how many do you have now? Just out of curiosity, within the CFO department,
You mean
within your
That we've
floor.
replaced?
No, that you had, when you first came here, how many people were in your department that supported you in your efforts on a daily basis?
So I have the people that are listed here. They weren't all full. We have filled some of these positions, but these 2 positions have been vacant for over a year.
Okay. So you are shorthanded in
Yes.
comparison to the other person who was in your job
Yes,
by the assistant auditor
Well,
position?
we promoted, so, just in all fairness, the day I started was also the day that someone that was hired to be the auditor and assistant auditor were also starting on that same day, both inexperienced. So the auditor left shortly, and the assistant auditor we recently promoted to auditor. So I just, and also the,
Can you just clarify, please? You said that both people started the same day you started, they were inexperienced, and then one left?
So we, as you might recall, we hired an auditor who was here for a short time.
Yep.
It didn't work out for any number of reasons. And Cedric was hired as the assistant auditor. He's been fantastic and was promoted to auditor when he finished his MBA.
Because the auditor left.
And so it was the auditor who left.
Okay. Thank you. Council Ponte?
and then, and then the audit department, we lost two of the employees went to the schools right when I was starting. And one actually retired. Nick was very fortunate to get. So we've completely overhauled the entire audit department. It has less than, well under 2 years of experience.
And you feel, as the person who's preparing the budget going into next year, that this is something that can be afforded without an issue?
So I'm not, yes, because I'm using the dollars that we budgeted for the other positions.
Sure, but you're also using a lot of one-time money, and the next year you're gonna use one-time money, and one of these days, one-time money's gonna run out. So I wanna just be cognizant of that. You balance your budget with $7.8 million of one-time money, you use free cash, you use ARPA, you're doing it again in your 5-year budget forecast that's before us that we accepted and referred to finance today. You're looking at another, $3.7 million of one-time money going into the next year. So I just want to make sure that I have your word that this is something that's going to be sustainable absent we don't have all this one-time money coming in. I just want to be, I just want to be cognizant of that. And I want to make sure that you're going to be able to continue to support this position, and we're not going to take 2 steps forward to take 4 steps back.
Well, I think we need to have this position so that we can be looking at those things and taking these deep dives and looking at where we can maximize resources and grants and put things together. So, again, and we, the one-time money, we did address that during last year's budget.
And I think one of the reasons why it's so important that we're using money that's already budgeted for this position is that we don't want to just have this sprawl, this creep in budgets without being cognizant of the fact that there's one-time money ending, and there are challenges coming down the road. So to do this without increasing the financial team's budget, even though they could certainly benefit from that, to do it without that, I think is an essential part of what we're trying to do here.
So it's safe to say that you're down personnel in comparison to a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and you're gonna try to take this one position, combine 2, and make it more efficient and save money? Is that what you're trying to say?
So I wouldn't say combining 2. I think it's a very different position. I think we're acknowledging that we really don't need an assistant auditor position. It's not the help that we need at this point. What we really need is somebody that has the experience to do the analysis. So it's really a different direction, but we are using the money from that position as part of what we're trying to do. So I don't think we're combining positions at all. I think we're pivoting toward a direction that we think creates more efficiencies, allows us to do more in that department in a deeper way.
All right, look, I'm gonna give you the opportunity to, I was up in the air, I came in here undecided, I wanted to listen to the debate. I'm gonna support this tonight. I'm gonna give this an opportunity to see if it's successful. But I have every anticipation, going forward to hold you accountable for everything that you've said at the ordinance committee and here tonight, that this is gonna be vital to your research and your compliance and your capabilities to be more efficient, right? So we won't have any more conversations 90 days from now or in the middle of a budget cycle that we can't get an analysis. So I'm gonna support it, I'm gonna trust in your abilities to get this done, but I have every anticipation that if you're not able to fulfill what you're saying that you're gonna fulfill, that I have every anticipation, and I will hold you accountable for what you said here tonight, because I'm hoping that the efficiencies improve. I hope that you are able to support not just the CFO's department, but multiple departments, your department, the clerk's department, the traffic department, all departments. And I really want to see this this work and be successful. I'm looking at this more as an opportunity to streamline and be more efficient. That's how I'm looking at it. That's how I was sold on this. And I'm hoping that that makes us more efficient, that makes you more efficient, and that makes the entire way you operate the financial side of government more efficient.
That's the
So,
goal. I appreciate that.
And I recognize one thing, and I know people, with all due respect to some of my colleagues who say, you know, it's hard to find people right now. I recognize that. It's even harder to find people, most likely, I'm not in municipal government, to come do a municipal government job because nobody wants to deal with this, right? So, so the truth is, you're under a spotlight, you can make more money, less aggravation. Yeah, you don't get union help, but, you know, you can go work in the private sector and have less headaches. So, again, I'm gonna support this. I'm gonna give you an opportunity to prove to me as one counselor, only speaking for myself here, that this is gonna improve the way we conduct business within your department. But we will be having a conversation from my standpoint, if we're not effective and you're not efficient, you're not improving efficiencies, so.
Thank you.
I yield, thanks.
I just, thank you, on that point, I just have a question. Are we gonna ask, how are we gonna hire this person? Are we just gonna hire the individual that you already interviewed for the other position they came and applied for, the assistant auditor, or are you gonna put us out, request for proposals to see who else is available? You said you don't wanna lose this individual. I mean, are we strictly gonna hire them?
So, as we've been advertising for, you know, financial positions for the last 2+ years, and we've interviewed people, we were very lucky to get a candidate that is a very high caliber, and we would be, I think this person would be a great asset to the city. But, I mean, Nick can speak for how many.
Yes, this happened very organically. I mean, we were fielding applicants for the auditor's position. We did not get much that we wanted to act on. Identified this candidate and just had a conversation, realized they were bigger than the auditor's position, that this was someone that could really help us, that, you know, we have a use and a need for them. So that's sort of how this happened. You know, we can't promise anything. If the candidate decided this didn't work out, we would still want this position. I mean, this is something that
Yeah, I'm
is
not saying,
happening.
I understand that, but are you gonna advertise this position and hope to get someone to fill this position, or are you just gonna give it to the individual that applied for the auditor's position? That's my question. Because we didn't know what, I guess, her abilities were until, or he or she, I don't even know who it is. Is it a female or a male? I don't know, but we didn't know what they were capable of until they interviewed. If you advertise this position under what her job requirements would be, you don't know who else might show up at the table.
So I think the appropriate thing to do, and I apologize for having my back to you, Mr.
No,
President.
that's okay. It's the way this is set up. I don't like it either, but that's all right.
The appropriate thing to do in the interest of transparency is to post the position. But
You have to.
But as you know, yes, we have to, but that's also just it's the right look, right? As you know, anybody who runs a business or hires, half the time, the best candidates come from somebody that's already in your organization, knowing somebody and calling them and saying, hey, this is posted, apply for it. And I don't think it would be very different in this case, where we have someone who we think would be great. We're probably encourage that person and whoever else, anybody in the department and in city government knows to apply for the position, and we're gonna pick the best person. That's how we do every hiring. And, you know, frankly, I think we found some remarkable people. I have great regard for the people that work for the city of Fall River. And, you know, it's sometimes a thankless job. And, I love the fact that we get some really great candidates, and I think we're gonna do the same in this situation.
All right, I just want to see what the thought process was. One more thing. Are we still doing zero-based budgeting? When you meet with the department heads, are you telling them to start from the zero up, as we used to do in the past?
Yes, so they're to, I mean, obviously you have like some routine supplies that is obviously pretty standard and they know from historical information.
Yeah.
But the intent is zero-based. And if there's anything new in addition to that, they have to submit a narrative to us, and obviously, we meet with every single department head to go over every single budget.
Because I heard you say you want to dive deeper into each department.
do.
Wouldn't that be
I
a
mean-
conversation with the department head and seeing what they're
Yes.
budgeting and why it's zero-based or not? And it's, I mean, it's,
I don't know that it's necessarily the conversation about zero-based. I think it's more of a conversation about how else can we reimagine to utilize what we have in a different and better way.
and that's what this person's going to be in charge of doing?
They're going to be assisting with, again, so my finance team, we're we're not in these silos anymore. We meet regularly every week. We work together. So we'd all be working collaboratively because sometimes, you know, I do imagine the audit department in this position working very closely together because there's so much that's involved in, you know, maintaining the budget as well as creating a new budget. So this person that will be their majority of their task is looking at those things as well as what other resources or grants can we maximize and group together to accomplish things.
Is that what you currently do now?
That's what we, yes, we do try to do that, but with the limited resources and manpower that I have, I believe I want to do it better.
Okay. Council C2?
So, we know budget season is coming quickly. Will you be taking a more, or be able to take a more active role in putting the budget together, having this new position? Will that be their responsibility? Who will be putting the quarterly reports together?
So the quarterly report would stay with the auditor.
That's gonna stay with the auditor?
Yeah, and so again, this position, I mean, the likelihood of being able to bring someone on, we're already gonna be deep into budget season. So just as I did last year, I met with every single department head and prepared the budget, mostly, you know, to myself. So, because, you know, we have to go through several meetings, this person we'd be bringing in, I don't know that the huge value that they're gonna be able to hit the ground running. They will hit the ground running, but it's not like if we had brought them on before the budget season started. So I just wanna, by the time we are able to approve a position and then bring someone on, is gonna be.
So their ability to identify and streamline in this budget is going to be very narrow, because they're not gonna have the time, enough time in advance.
Well, I mean, yeah, if by the time March, April, bring somebody on, we're gonna be approving a budget, we're already gonna be in budget hearings in May. So I'm just being realistic about the timing and again, you gotta learn Fall River. Fall River it has its own unique things,
Absolutely. It's a unique animal.
so.
What is its own unique thing? I'm curious.
Well, every department just runs differently, I mean, yeah.
She doesn't really want to answer the question.
I'm serious. I mean, what's so unique about this?
No, every city is unique. Every city has its own, you know, idiosyncrasies or the way they do things, and so you have to learn it.
I think of it as charm. It's its own charm.
Smoke.
Not at all.
Smoke and mirrors.
I don't
That's
know.
all
I
because
just
Councilor
think,
in seat number
So-
one said
you
he
have
was
to learn Fall
brilliant.
River.
Now
It's
he's gonna
just-
throw out Charlie.
I don't like
That's
it.
all.
Okay, so I guess the bottom line to the story is we know it's gonna be a difficult budget season. There's gonna be some serious conversations. We have a lot of serious things
Yep,
ahead of
we do.
us. I would still feel better if the auditor's position was out completely. We didn't have to worry about it coming back.
The assistant auditor.
I'm thinking of taking the same approach as my colleague in seat 6. But if it doesn't pan out, I'll be coming at you.
I wouldn't expect anything else.
All right, with that, I yield.
Thank you. One last question. Is Ed Capone gonna work on this budget as well, or what's the deal when you hire this person? Does he stay out to
When is
train
he
that
leaving?
person, train the other person he's training already? Is he gonna do 4 hours a week? Can you give us a status on Ed Capone, please? Just curious.
So Ed Capone has been working like 4 to, you know, less than 10 hours a week.
He
Sometimes
is or he's not?
He has been. I mean, we want to, you know, let Ed go home as much, but again, we need to bring in resources.
So what does he do? Just curious, in those 10 hours, does he work with you? Does he work with department
he's
heads? Does he
working,
work with individuals? What is he, I'm just
he's
curious. 'cause
primarily in the
He told me
auditors.
20 years ago he wanted to leave, and he's still here.
Mostly training.
Yeah.
Who's he training?
He's working in the auditor's office, so he's working with the entire staff, but there's a staff accountant and Cedric, who he does a lot of work with, who I think are really developing really well. Cedric's phenomenal. I can't say enough good things about him, and I think Ed's done a lot of good work with him.
Yeah, I'm into the conversations about subjects about Ed Capone. What's he doing when he gets here? That's what I want to know. You said at the meeting last night he doesn't want to be here.
Right.
But he's here. Is he going to work on this budget?
I don't intend for Ed to be working on the the fine tuning of the budget or working on the budget. He's working with the city auditor, and working with the city auditor with the roles and responsibilities that the city auditor has to do, and, you know, by statute, there's requirements. So the focus has been on developing our city auditor,
Okay, so when Ed comes in, he sits down with the city auditor and he works with him.
yes.
Thank you. That's all I need to know. Thank you so much. Council Dion?
I just want to do one follow-up question on that. So, if this position is approved, do we have an exit date for Mr. Aya Capone? Because his rate is $250 an hour?
I don't know, that, you said that one time, and it's not that high. I can
What
get
is
there.
it?
Oh, no, it's not two.
No, it's not
It's like,
250.
I think like 150.
Yeah.
So
150.
250
So
is.
10 hours is only $1,500 a week. That's only 6,000 on a 40-hour week, right?
Well, that's
So-
why we,
Sooner than later, in conjunction with this,
yeah.
would be also very helpful
And I
to
completely
probably
agree
try to
with you.
convince some of us to give you the opportunity.
No, and with bringing on, you know, being able to fill these two positions, the intent is for Ed to, you know, actually retire and go, he's got plenty of other people that want him to go consult.
Let him go.
The two positions that are on here, so we're,
We're creating a new position,
yeah,
not filling in auditors,
assistant auditors, yes.
assistant auditor, and not filling.
Not filling the purchasing agent in the manner that it has been historically filled,
Correct.
with a lower position. Yes.
Okay. That I yield, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Anyone have their hand up that I didn't see? All right. Thank you very much for coming down.
Thank you, councilors.
Appreciate it.
Was there a motion on the floor?
Motion is to pass through first reading, and it was seconded.
Second.
Roll call. There already was a motion and a second. That's why we had the discussion. Roll call.
On the passage through first reading, Councilors Kadim,
Yes.
Dion,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Kilby,
Yes?
Pereira,
Yes.
Fonte,
Yes.
Reposo,
No.
Sampson,
No.
President Kamara.
No. Motion carries.
What was the outcome?
Committee on Ordinances and Legislation at a meeting held on January 22nd voted unanimously to recommend the accompanying resolution be granted leave to withdraw. This related to the ordinance relating to site plan review.
Motion grant to leave withdraw.
Motion to grant the leave to withdraw has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And the last matter we have, Mr. President, is an order that will revisit these times of the scheduled times for the finance and regular meeting.
Motion to adopt the order?
Motion to adopt the order has been made
Second.
and
Madam
seconded.
Clerk, could you just read the order so that we all know what it says?
That the regular meetings of the City Council during 2024 shall be held as follows, and be it further ordered that said meetings of the Committee on Finance shall begin at 6 p.m. or at the discretion of the council president, and the regular meeting of the City Council shall begin at 7 p.m. unless otherwise ordered.
Thank you very much.
Now, you said 2024. Is that beginning in 2024, or is that just only for
This is
the
the
year?
remainder of 2024.
So next year, we'll have to
beginning
take the
with
same
February.
motion again. Okay,
It'll be the same order.
thank you. Motion to adopt has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
That's all we have.
Motion to adjourn has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? City Council meeting is now adjourned. Good night, everyone.